The steady beep of monitors cuts through darkness. My fingers twitch against crisp sheets, and I struggle to open eyes that feel sealed shut. The antiseptic smell hits me first. That unmistakable hospital scent that makes your stomach clench. She's waking up. Someone grabs my hand. The voice is familiar but distorted, like I'm underwater. I force my eyes open, blinking against harsh fluorescent lights. Everything's a blur of white and shadow. My throat feels like sandpaper. Zoe, can you hear me? A nurse leans over me, checking my vitals. Try not to move too much. You've been unconscious for nearly 3 weeks. 3 weeks? My mind struggles to piece together fragments. There was rain, screeching tires, the sickening crunch of metal. Then, nothing. Where's Nathan? The words scrape out barely above a whisper. He should be here. My fiancé should be holding my hand right now. The room goes quiet. Too quiet. I turn my head slightly, fighting waves of dizziness, and see Angela from work standing beside my bed. Her face is pinched with something that looks too much like pity. Eng? My heart monitor picks up speed. Where is he? She squeezes my hand harder. Zoe, there's something you need to know, but maybe we should wait until you're stronger. Tell me. The monitor beeps faster. Nathan and Stacy got married last week. The words don't make sense at first. Nathan and Stacy, my fiancé and my sister, married. That's not... I try to sit up, but my body won't cooperate. That's not possible. We're getting married in June. Angela's eyes fill with tears. I'm so sorry. It happened while you were... They didn't even wait for you to wake up. The monitor's frantic beeping matches the roaring in my ears. Memories flash through my mind. Stacy helping me pick out my wedding dress. Nathan surprising me with takeout at the office. The 3 of us laughing over dinner just days before the accident. Get out. My voice doesn't sound like my own. Zoe. Get out! The nurse rushes back in as Angela retreats. They try to calm me down, but everything's spinning out of control. Through the window of my hospital room, I catch a glimpse of someone in the hallway. Tall, blonde, wearing the Cartier watch I bought Nathan for Christmas. I need to see my sister. The words taste like poison. Get Stacy in here, now. The nurse hesitates. Ms. Rivera, you need to rest. Either you get her, or I'll drag myself down that hallway. Minutes later, Stacy glides in like she owns the room. She's wearing my favorite of her dresses, the green one that makes her eyes pop. The same eyes we inherited from our mother. Oh good, you're finally awake. She perches on the edge of my bed like this is a casual visit. We were starting to worry. Were you? Ice creeps into my voice. Is that why you couldn't wait 3 weeks to steal my fiancé? She sighs, examining her perfect manicure. It wasn't like that, Zoe. These things just happen sometimes. Nathan and I realized we had feelings for each other while planning your wedding. The accident just made us see we couldn't keep lying to ourselves. The casual cruelty of her words stuns me into silence. This is my sister. The person who held me when our dad died, who taught me to ride a bike, who promised we'd always protect each other. Get out. My voice shakes. Get out before I rip that ring off your finger. She stands, smoothing her dress. You should focus on getting better instead of being dramatic. Nathan and I hope you'll understand eventually. We're still family. As she reaches the door, I find my voice again. Stacy? She turns, and for a moment I see a flicker of the sister I used to know. The next time I see you, I say quietly, it will be to destroy everything you've taken from me. She laughs. Actually laughs, and shakes her head. Oh, honey, you always were the emotional one. Get some rest. The door clicks shut behind her. I stare at the ceiling, letting rage replace the pain threatening to overwhelm me. 3 weeks. They couldn't even wait 3 weeks while I lay here fighting for my life. The heart monitor's steady rhythm matches the mantra building in my mind. They will pay. They will pay. They will pay. I've never hated anyone before. But as I lie here planning my sister's downfall, I realize hate feels an awful lot like purpose. Coming home feels like walking into someone else's life. Everything's exactly where I left it. The half-finished sketches on my drafting table, the coffee mug Nathan bought me still in the dish rack, Stacy's birthday card propped on the mantle. But nothing feels real anymore. Angela hovers behind me as I step into my apartment. You sure you don't want me to stay? The doctor said you shouldn't be alone yet. I need to do this by myself. My fingers trace the edge of the couch where Nathan and I used to curl up watching movies. But thank you for everything. After she leaves, I stand in the silence, letting reality sink in. 3 weeks in a coma, and they couldn't even wait. The thought loops endlessly, each iteration stoking the fire in my chest. My phone buzzes. Another message from Mom asking to talk. I delete it without reading. She was at their wedding. She watched my sister marry my fiancé while I lay unconscious, and she celebrated with champagne. I head to my home office, needing to focus on something concrete. Work emails should be a good distraction. But when I open my laptop, the first thing I see is an email from Sean, my mentor at the firm. Zoe, hope you're recovering well. Unfortunately, given your extended absence and some concerning issues with your recent projects, we'll need to discuss your position when you return. Sean. My hands shake as I click through my work folders. Files are missing. Designs I spent months perfecting have been altered or deleted entirely. This isn't just about Nathan and Stacy anymore. They're trying to erase me completely. A knock at the door interrupts my spiral. I consider ignoring it until I hear Brady's voice. Zoe, I brought that stuff you asked for. I didn't ask for anything, but Brady's been my friend since college. He's the only one who didn't attend the wedding. I open the door to find him holding a thick manila envelope. What's this? He glances down the hallway before stepping inside. Police report from your accident. I called in some favors to get it. I didn't ask you to... No, but you need to see this. His face is grim as he pulls out documents. The skid marks, the angle of impact. It wasn't just a random accident, Zoe. Someone ran you off the road. The room tilts slightly. I grab the edge of the counter. What are you saying? Look at the timestamp. This happened right after you left Nathan's office that night. Brady spreads photos across my kitchen counter. You told me you were going there to surprise him with dinner? What really happened? The memory hits like a physical blow. Walking into Nathan's office late that night, seeing him with Stacy, wrapped around each other on his desk. The look on their faces when they saw me. Not shame, not guilt, just annoyance at being caught. I ran out. I whisper. Nathan followed me to the parking lot saying he could explain. I drove away and then I stare at the photos. Are you saying the car that hit you was dark blue? Like Nathan's Audi. Brady's voice is gentle but firm, which he conveniently sold the week after your accident. My legs give out and I sink to the floor. Brady crouches beside me, but I barely register his presence. The pieces click together with horrible clarity. The affair, the accident, the rushed wedding. They didn't just betray me. They tried to kill me. I'm going to be sick. I barely make it to the bathroom. When I emerge, Brady's organizing the evidence into neat piles. What do you want to do? We could take this to the police. No. The word comes out sharp and clear. Not yet. He studies my face. Zoe. They think they've won. My voice is steady now. Cold. They think they can just take everything. My fiancé, my career, my life. And I'll either die or fade away quietly. I pick up one of the photos. But they forgot something important. What's that? I meet his eyes in the mirror, and for a moment I barely recognize myself. I'm an architect. I know how to tear things down so completely that nothing can ever be rebuilt. Brady's quiet for a long moment. Whatever you're planning, I want in. They don't get to do this to you. I nod slowly, mind already racing with possibilities. Nathan's careful reputation, Stacy's social climbing, Sean's professional ethics. They're all just structures waiting to be demolished. First, I say, reaching for my phone, I need to call Trevor. If our family lawyer helped rush their wedding while I was in a coma, I bet he knows what other secrets they're hiding. The rage that's been burning in my chest crystallizes into something harder, sharper. They wanted to bury me? Fine. I'll drag them down with me. Trevor's office smells like leather and money. He adjusts his tie as I sit across from him, trying to hide his discomfort behind a professional smile. Zoe, I'm glad to see you've recovered. What can I help you with? I place the accident report on his desk. You can start by explaining why you helped my sister marry my fiancé while I was in a coma. His smile falters. That's a private matter between family? I lean forward. Funny how I'm only family when it's convenient. Did you help Nathan sell his car too? The blue Audi that mysteriously disappeared right after my accident? Color drains from his face. I don't know what you're implying. Yes, you do. I keep my voice steady despite the trembling in my hands. You've been our family lawyer for 15 years. You knew about their affair, didn't you? Before the accident, he stands abruptly, moving to his window. Some things are better left in the past, Zoe. Focus on your recovery, your future. My future? I laugh, the sound sharp enough to make him flinch. The one where I go back to work and pretend Sean hasn't been sabotaging my projects? Or the one where I play happy families at Christmas while my sister wears my engagement ring? Sean? Trevor turns, genuine surprise crossing his face. What does he have to do with this? Got you. I watch his expression carefully. You tell me, you handled the paperwork for his promotion last month, right? The flash of confusion in his eyes confirms my suspicion. Sean's betrayal runs deeper than I thought. I stand, gathering my things. Thanks for your time, Trevor. You've been very helpful. Wait. He moves to block the door. Whatever you're planning, don't. Some things should stay buried. Like attempted murder? He pales further. You can't prove anything. Watch me. I leave him sweating in his office and head straight to the architectural firm. It's after hours, but my keycard still works. The familiar open-plan office is eerily quiet as I make my way to Sean's corner office. His computer is locked, but I know his password. He never changed it after making me set up his system last year. Within minutes, I'm downloading everything. Project files, emails, financial records. If he's been sabotaging my work, there'll be evidence. Zoe, I freeze. Angela stands in the doorway, holding a stack of blueprints. Her eyes dart between me and the computer. It's not what it looks like. I start, but my voice cracks. She sets down her papers and closes the door. Actually, I hope it's exactly what it looks like. She pulls up a chair. Need help? I stare at her, uncertain. Why would you? Because Sean's been taking credit for your designs for months. Her jaw tightens. I tried telling you before the accident, but he always interrupted. Then suddenly you're in a coma and he's getting promoted using your Miller project as his crowning achievement. My throat tightens. The Miller project? But that was my... I know. She starts typing, pulling up files I hadn't found. I've been keeping copies. Figured you'd need them eventually. Tears blur my vision. The first I've allowed myself since waking up. Angela squeezes my hand. You're not alone in this, Zoe. Some of us still know right from wrong. A noise in the hallway makes us both jump. Angela quickly transfers the files to my drive while I wipe any trace of our presence. We're almost to the elevator when Sean's voice rings out. Working late? He stands by the break room, coffee in hand, watching us with narrowed eyes. My heart pounds, but Angela steps forward smoothly. Just showing Zoe the changes to her projects while she was out. Doctor says familiar work might help her recovery. His smile doesn't reach his eyes. How thoughtful. Though I'm not sure there's much left of her projects to show. The threat in his voice is clear. I meet his gaze, channeling Stacy's casual cruelty from the hospital. Don't worry, Sean. I saw everything I needed to see. In the parking lot, Angela hugs me tightly. Be careful. Sean has powerful friends. So do I reply, thinking of Brady waiting at my apartment with the accident evidence. And I'm done being careful. At home, I spread everything across my dining table: police reports, project files, wedding documents. A web of betrayal laid bare in paper and pixels. Brady whistles low. This is bigger than Nathan and Stacy, isn't it? I nod, studying Sean's signature on documents, claiming my work as his own. The same signature that appears on Nathan's company promotion last month. The pieces shift again, revealing new patterns. They're all connected, I realize. The affair, the accident, my projects. This wasn't just about stealing my fiancé. They needed me gone. Brady's expression hardens. Then let's make them regret not finishing the job. I trace Sean's signature, remembering his smug smile. Starting with him. The board meeting room falls silent as I walk in, Sean's stolen files clutched in my hands. His face goes from shocked to furious in seconds. This is a private meeting. About the Miller project? I smile, channeling Stacy's practice charm. Perfect, since I designed it. The board members exchange glances. Sean forces a laugh. Zoe's still recovering. Perhaps the accident has confused. Oh, I'm very clear. I start distributing copies of emails and design documents. Clear about how you stole my work while I was in a coma. Clear about the trail of projects you've claimed credit for. And very clear about the kickbacks you've been receiving. One of the board members, an older woman, adjusts her glasses. These signatures? Sean, is this true? His chair scrapes back. This is ridiculous. She's obviously fabricated. The timestamps and metadata are authentic. I cut in. And I'm sure the SEC would be very interested in those offshore accounts you've been using. The room erupts in whispers. Sean's face turns purple. You have no idea what you're doing. Actually, I do. I meet his gaze steadily. I'm taking back what's mine. Hours later, I sit in my apartment, hands shaking as I pour a glass of wine. Sean's been suspended pending investigation. His reputation is in tatters. I should feel triumphant, but instead I feel hollow. My phone buzzes. Mom again. This time I answer. Zoe, thank God. Her voice breaks. Please, we need to talk. About how you watched Stacy marry Nathan while I was fighting for my life? It wasn't... She stops, starts again. There are things you don't understand. Then explain them to me. The wine sloshes as my hand tightens on the glass. Explain how my mother could do that to me. Silence stretches between us. Then, come to dinner tomorrow. Please, there's something you need to know. I almost refuse, but curiosity wins. Fine, but I'm bringing Brady. Mom's house looks exactly the same. Family photos lining the walls, including one of Stacy and me as kids, arms around each other, gap-toothed smiles identical. I resist the urge to smash it. Brady squeezes my hand as we enter the dining room. Mom's made my favorite pasta, an obvious peace offering. But she's not alone. What is she doing here? I spit as Angela rises from the table. I asked her to come. Mom says quietly, she has something to tell you. Angela steps forward, face pale. I'm so sorry, Zoe. I thought I was helping, but... She pulls out her phone, hands shaking. You need to see this. It's a video from the night of my accident. Security footage from Nathan's office building parking lot. I watch myself running out, Nathan following. But then I see something I didn't know. Stacy rushing out after him, trying to stop him from getting in his car. Keep watching, Angela whispers. The timestamp jumps forward 20 minutes. A dark blue Audi pulls into the lot, but it's not Nathan's car. The driver steps out. Sean. I found this when I was gathering evidence against him. Angela says. He's been working with Nathan for months, helping him embezzle from the company. When you caught them that night? They thought I knew about the money. I finish, pieces clicking into place. That's why Sean tried to kill me. Not because of the affair. Nathan and Stacy were going to turn him in. Mom says softly. The wedding, it was his idea. His insurance policy. If they were family, they couldn't testify against each other. I sink into a chair, mind reeling. Why didn't you tell me? Sean threatened to finish what he started if anyone warned you. Angela's voice cracks. I thought helping you expose his fraud would be enough, but after today's meeting, he'll be desperate, Brady realizes, and Zoe just painted a target on her back. My phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. Should have stayed dead the first time. Mom reaches for me, but I pull away, bile rising in my throat. All this time, I thought I was the victim of a love story gone wrong, but I was just collateral damage in something much darker. We need to go to the police. Brady starts, but I shake my head. No. I stare at the photo of Stacy and me, seeing it differently now. Sean doesn't know we have this footage. He thinks he's still controlling everyone through fear. Zoe. Mom's voice holds a warning. I'm not stopping. The hollow feeling from earlier transforms into steel resolve. But I'm changing targets. Sean wants to play games? Fine. Let's see how he handles losing everything he's built. Brady and Angela exchange looks. Whatever you're planning, Brady says. We're with you. I nod, already formulating a new strategy. Sean thought he could bury me twice. Time to show him why that was a mistake. The first thing I notice when I get home is that my door is slightly ajar. Brady tenses beside me, but I'm already pushing it open. We find Stacy sitting on my couch, mascara streaked down her face. Get out, I snap. But she holds up her phone with trembling hands. Sean knows. Her voice cracks. He knows everything. About the evidence, the board meeting, all of it. She looks up, and for the first time since I woke from the coma, I see my sister instead of my enemy. He's going to kill Nathan. Brady moves to check the rest of the apartment while I stay frozen by the door. Why should I care? Because it's my fault. Stacy breaks down completely. I thought I was so clever playing both sides. Dating Nathan to get dirt on Sean's operation, then using the affair to force Sean's hand. She laughs bitterly. I never meant for you to get hurt. You weren't supposed to be there that night. The room spins slightly. What are you saying? I'm saying I was working with the FBI. She wipes her eyes, smearing makeup further. Nathan and I were gathering evidence against Sean. The affair was supposed to be our cover, but then you saw us, and Sean panicked, and everything went so wrong. Brady returns, nodding that the apartment's clear. Why tell us this now? Because Sean's done playing games. She pulls up text messages. He's giving me a choice. Either I destroy the evidence you gathered, or Nathan has an accident tonight. My legs give out and I sink into a chair. All this time I've been plotting revenge against my sister, and she's been... What? Some kind of undercover informant? Show me everything, I say. An hour later, my dining room table is covered in evidence. Not just about Sean's financial crimes, but a whole network of corruption. Names I recognize from the firm, from Trevor's office, from city planning committees. Jesus, Brady whispers, examining a document. This goes all the way to the mayor's office. And Sean has dirt on everyone. Stacy's hands won't stop shaking. That's how he keeps them in line. One word from him and careers end, families implode, people disappear. Like he tried with me. The realization hits hard. You and Nathan were going to expose him, so he tried to kill me as a warning. She nods miserably. The wedding was damage control. Sean thought if we were family, you'd back off once you woke up. But then you started digging. My phone buzzes. Angela. Sean just left the office. He looked ready to kill someone. We need to move, Brady says. If he's going after Nathan? No. I stand up, mind racing. That's what he expects. He's counting on Stacy running to save Nathan. Stacy looks up sharply. What are you saying? I'm saying Sean's not the only one who can set traps. I grab my laptop. Where would Nathan be right now? The club. He always plays poker on Thursdays. Perfect. I start typing rapidly. Brady, call Angela. Tell her to send that footage to every board member, but don't let them open it yet. Stacy, text Sean. Tell him you'll meet him at the club to hand over the evidence. Are you insane? She protests. He'll kill us both. No. I meet her eyes steadily. He'll try, but this time we'll be ready. And this time, I pull up the club's security system, another project Sean stole from me. I'll be the one controlling the cameras. Brady catches on first. We're going to catch him in the act. Better. I smile grimly. We're going to make him confess. To everything. Stacy stares at me for a long moment. Why would you help me? After everything. Because you're still my sister. The words surprise me as much as her. And because Sean needs to pay for what he did to all of us. She reaches across the table, hesitantly taking my hand. I never wanted your forgiveness. I just wanted you safe. I know. And somehow I do know. The rage that's been driving me starts to shift into something else. Not forgiveness exactly, but understanding. But after tonight, we do this my way. No more secrets. Deal. She squeezes my hand. Tell me the plan. As we work out the details, my phone buzzes again. A text from Sean. Last chance to walk away, Zoe. Some graves should stay filled. I show it to Stacy and Brady. Ready to bury Sean instead? They nod grimly. We have 2 hours until the meeting at the club. 2 hours to set our trap. 2 hours to end this. I look at the photo of Stacy and me as kids, still hanging on my wall. After tonight, nothing will be the same. But maybe, just maybe, something broken can be rebuilt stronger. The club's private poker room feels like a trap closing in slow motion. I sit at the security desk, watching through cameras as Stacy meets Sean at the bar. Brady's voice crackles through my earpiece. Nathan just arrived. He looks nervous. He should be. I adjust the camera angle, catching Sean's predatory smile as he spots Nathan across the room. Everyone clear on the plan? Crystal clear, Angela confirms from her position near the emergency exit. Though I still think you should let me call my contact at the FBI. No. I watch Sean lead Stacy toward the poker room. We do this ourselves. The security feed shows Nathan already seated at the poker table, hands shaking slightly as he shuffles cards. 3 other players, all Sean's cronies, surround him. A perfect audience for what's about to happen. Showtime, I murmur, activating the hidden microphones we planted earlier. Sean's voice fills my headset. Nathan, dealing us in? Of course. Nathan's smile is brittle. Stacy, honey, I didn't expect you tonight. Oh, I wouldn't miss this game. Sean's tone drips with menace as he takes his seat. Would you, Stacy? She clutches her purse, containing blank papers instead of the real evidence, and forces a smile. Never. I start recording as Sean deals the first hand. The conversation stays casual, but tension crackles beneath every word. 20 minutes in, Sean makes his move. Speaking of missing things, he says, studying his cards. Heard some interesting rumors about company files going missing, right before poor Zoe's unfortunate accident. Nathan's tells are obvious. Rapid blinking, throat clearing. I wouldn't know anything about that. No? Sean raises the bet significantly. Funny, since those same files recently ended up with the board. Almost cost me everything. His smile turns sharp. Almost. Stacy touches Nathan's arm. Maybe we should... Sit down. Sean's mask slips, revealing the monster beneath. Both of you tried to play me. Now we're going to play my game. The other players shift uncomfortably. Perfect. Brady, I whisper. Now. The lights flicker once, twice. Sean's head snaps up. What? The power cuts completely. In the darkness, I hear chairs scraping, confused voices. When emergency lights kick in 30 seconds later, the other players are gone. Just Sean, Nathan, and Stacy remain. And me, stepping through the door. Sean's face contorts. You. Surprised to see me vertical? I move closer, noting how his hand twitches toward his jacket. Don't bother. Your gun's been removed. His composure cracks further. How did you know about the gun? The same way I know about everything. I pull out my phone, playing back his earlier threats. Amazing what people say when they think they're alone. You recorded me? He laughs, but fear edges his voice. Doesn't matter. Your word against mine. And dead girls can't testify. True. I tap my phone. Every screen in the club, the TVs, the security monitors, even the digital menu boards, springs to life. Security footage plays across the mall. Sean following my car the night of the accident. Sean meeting with corrupt officials. Sean threatening Nathan last week. But dead girls can plan ahead. He lunges for me, but Brady appears from the shadows, pinning him down. Angela steps in from the emergency exit, phone recording everything. It's over, Sean, I say quietly. The board has everything. The FBI has everything. This footage is streaming live to every device in your network. You think this changes anything? He thrashes against Brady's grip. I still own this town. I can still... Still what? Stacy steps forward. Still threaten us? Still try to kill my sister? Her voice breaks. I won't let you hurt anyone else I love. The word love hits me like a physical blow. I look at my sister. Really look at her. And see the guilt eating her alive. She played her part in this mess, but she also tried to protect me, in her own twisted way. Zoe, Nathan starts, reaching for me, but I step back. Don't. My voice is ice. You don't get to speak to me. Ever again. Sirens wail in the distance. Sean's face goes slack with defeat as he realizes there's no escape this time. You'll regret this. He spits. All of you. No. I lean close, letting him see the truth in my eyes. The only thing I regret is not seeing you for what you were sooner, but that's over now. As police flood the room, I feel the weight of the past months lifting. But when I turn to leave, Stacy grabs my arm. Wait, she pleads. What happens now? With us? I look at my sister, my first friend, my worst betrayer, my unexpected ally, and realize I don't have an answer yet. Now, I say finally, we learn how to be honest with each other, starting with everything you haven't told me about Sean's operation. Her face pales. There's more? There's always more. I head for the door, knowing she'll follow. And this time, we face it together. The interrogation room feels smaller with each passing hour. Stacy sits across from me, her perfect makeup finally cracked, her designer dress wrinkled. Between us lies a stack of files that keeps growing. The development project on River Street. She says quietly. That's where it started. Sean was laundering money through fake construction costs. And Nathan? Cooking the books. She won't meet my eyes. We both thought we could gather enough evidence to take Sean down without anyone getting hurt. Except I got hurt anyway. Her hands shake as she reaches for her water. When you caught us that night, I tried to stop Nathan from following you. I knew Sean was watching The Office. I knew he'd... She breaks off, tears finally falling. I should have tried harder. Before I can respond, Brady knocks on the door. FBI's here. My stomach drops. This is it. The moment everything becomes official, irreversible. Part of me wants to grab Stacy and run, protect her like she tried to protect me. But we're past that now. Ready? I ask her. She wipes her eyes, straightening her spine. No, but let's do it anyway. The federal agents are exactly what you'd expect. Crisp suits, stern faces, an air of contained power. They listen silently as we lay out everything. Sean's criminal empire, the network of corrupt officials, the attempted murder, all of it. And you have proof of these allegations? The lead agent asks. I start pulling up files on my laptop, but Stacy speaks first. I was wearing a wire. Her voice is barely audible. For months, every meeting, every threat, every deal. The room goes still. I stare at my sister, understanding finally hitting me. That's why you couldn't tell me. You were already working with them. She nods miserably. They approached me after finding irregularities in the River Street project. I agreed to help, thinking I could protect everyone. Instead, she looks at me, really looks at me, for the first time since the hospital. Instead, I almost got you killed. Miss Rivera, the agent interrupts. Your recordings could be crucial evidence, but using them means testifying against Sean, against the others, against Nathan. I know. Stacy's hands ball into fists. I'll do it, even though he's your husband? He stopped being my husband the moment he chose Sean over my sister. Pride and pain war in my chest. This is my sister, the real Stacy, not the polished society wife she became. The girl who once broke Tommy Wilson's nose for pushing me off the swings. There's something else, I say, pulling out my phone. The night of my accident, Sean made a call. I found it in the phone records. I play the recording Brady helped me recover. Sean's voice, calm and cold, ordering someone to make sure she doesn't wake up. The agent leans forward. Who is he talking to? Trevor. The name tastes bitter. Our family lawyer. He's been Sean's fixer for years. Stacy gasps. Trevor? But he's been with our family since Dad died. I meet her eyes. Maybe it's time we looked into that too. The agents exchange glances. One steps out to make a call. The lead agent turns back to us. Ladies, what you're proposing would dismantle half the power structure in this city. There will be consequences. There already have been consequences, I say, touching the scar on my temple. Now there can be justice. A commotion erupts outside. Through the window, I see Sean being led past in handcuffs, Trevor right behind him. Sean locks eyes with me, his face twisting with hatred. This isn't over, he mouths. But it is. I feel it in my bones, in the way Stacy's hand finds mine under the table, in the quiet certainty that we're finally telling the truth. What happens now? Stacy whispers once the agents step out to process everything. Now we rebuild. I squeeze her hand. But this time we do it right. No more lies, no more secrets. Even if it means losing everything, we already lost everything. I think of my old life, the perfect fiancé, the rising career, the uncomplicated sister relationship. But maybe what we build in its place will be stronger. She studies my face. Can you ever forgive me? I don't know. The honesty hurts us both, but it's necessary. But I'm willing to try if you are. Through the window, I watch Sean and Trevor being driven away. Behind us, the agents are already mobilizing to arrest Nathan and the others. Everything we knew is crumbling. But for the first time since waking up in that hospital bed, I feel truly awake, truly alive. Ready? I ask Stacy, standing to face whatever comes next. She rises too, shoulders straight, eyes clear. Ready. Together, we step into the storm we've created, knowing that sometimes you have to tear everything down to build something true. The courtroom falls silent as I take the stand. Sean sits at the defense table, still wearing his expensive suit like armor, but his eyes betray his fear. Behind him, Nathan slumps in handcuffs, refusing to look at anyone. Trevor's already cut a deal, turning state's evidence in exchange for leniency. Stacy squeezes my hand as I pass. She testified yesterday, laying bare every detail of Sean's operation. Now it's my turn. Please state your name for the record. Zoe Rivera. My voice carries clearly through the hushed room. Ms. Rivera, can you tell us about the night of March 15th? I look directly at Sean as I speak. I went to surprise my fiancé at his office. Instead, I found him with my sister. A muscle twitches in Sean's jaw. When I fled, he followed me to the parking lot. That's when I saw the other car. The blue Audi? Yes. It followed me onto River Street. The driver? I pause, letting the tension build. The driver was Sean. He ran me off the road and left me for dead. Sean's lawyer stands. Objection. Speculation. Your Honor, the prosecutor interrupts. We have video evidence confirming the defendant's presence. And phone records, I add clearly, showing his call to Trevor immediately after, ordering him to ensure I never woke up. The jury stirs. Sean's face goes ash white. But I did wake up, I continue. And I found proof of everything. The embezzlement, the bribes, the murder attempt. All of it. Liar, Sean surges to his feet. You think you've won? You have no idea what's coming. Actually, I pull out my phone. I do. The prosecutor plays the recording. Sean's voice threatening me at the club, confessing to everything in his rage. But there's more. Something not even Stacy knows about. That call to Trevor? I lean forward. It wasn't the first time Sean ordered a hit, was it, Mom? The gallery erupts as my mother stands, FBI agents moving to flank her. Sean's eyes go wide with recognition. Dad's car accident wasn't an accident, I say into the chaos. He found out about Sean's operation 5 years ago. Mom knew. She's been helping cover it up ever since. Order! The judge's gavel cracks like gunshots. Remove the defendant's wife immediately. As they lead my mother away, I see the moment Sean finally breaks. His carefully constructed world is crumbling and he knows it. No further questions, the prosecutor says quietly. Outside the courtroom, Stacy catches up to me. Why didn't you tell me about Mom? I couldn't. I watch our mother being processed by federal agents. Not until I was sure. Brady found the evidence last week. Her offshore accounts, the payments from Trevor. All this time, Stacy's voice cracks. Dad died because of Sean? Because of her? Because of choices? I turn to face her. The same choices you and Nathan made, getting involved with Sean. The same choices I made, pursuing revenge instead of justice at first. And now? Now we choose differently. I pull out the keys to our childhood home. Starting with this. Her eyes widen. The house? But Mom can't keep it now that it's evidence of criminal conspiracy. I manage a small smile. But I had Angela check the deed. It's still in Dad's name, which means it passes to us. Us? She stares at the keys. You'd share it with me? After everything? You chose truth in the end, I say simply. That matters. Brady appears around the corner, grinning. Verdict's in. Guilty on all counts. Relief floods through me, but it's not the vindication I expected. Instead, it feels like putting down a heavy weight I've carried since waking up in that hospital bed. Want to get coffee? Stacy asks hesitantly. Maybe talk about what to do with the house? I study my sister, really study her. The polished facade is gone, replaced by something raw but real. Like me, she's been stripped down to her foundations. Like me, she has to choose what to build next. Coffee sounds good. I hand her one of the keys. But first, there's something I need to do. I walk back into the courtroom where Sean sits, shell-shocked by the verdict. He looks up as I approach. Congratulations, he spits. You destroyed everything. No. I place my old engagement ring on the table, the one he helped Nathan pick out, the one that marked the beginning of their conspiracy. You destroyed everything. I just exposed the truth. I turn away, feeling lighter with each step. Behind me, Sean calls out, You think this fixes anything? You think you can just rebuild what's broken? I pause at the door, where Stacy waits. No, we'll build something better. Together, we walk into the sunlight, leaving the shadows behind. There will be hard days ahead, trust to rebuild, wounds to heal. But for the first time since I woke up in that hospital bed, I'm not looking back. I'm looking forward to whatever we choose to build next.
Hi, I'm Shanda. At my sister's wedding. She sat me by the kitchen. No place card, no thank you. Just the smell of used plates and people talking around me like I wasn't there. I smiled, I stayed quiet. And then, I canceled everything. You ever realize, too late, that the people you've supported the most were just using your silence? I funded her dream day. I wrote the check. I planned the pieces. and they erased me like I was the help. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part? I wasn't even supposed to be there that early. But I'd learned the hard way that if I didn't double-check things myself, they'd go sideways. The email about bridesmaid dress codes had come a week ago. Pastels only. But it wasn't sent to me directly. I had to ask Tanya to forward it. She hesitated before saying, "Oh, you didn't get it? That's strange." It wasn't. I scrolled through the thread. My name wasn't on the list. Just like that, I realized something. This wasn't the first time I'd been edited out, but it stung in a different way now. Maybe because this time it was my own sister getting married, and I'd helped her cover the loan that made this whole spectacle possible. The Charleston heat had started to settle when I pulled up to the venue. A fancy, overly restored barn, wood beams, faux rustic chandeliers, and enough florals to choke a greenhouse. I'd paid the balance for the floral upgrade last Thursday. I'd chosen a burgundy chiffon dress, not pastel. I didn't own anything in that shade, didn't feel like going out to buy something just to blend into a color scheme I hadn't even been looped into. The young woman at the front looked me over and asked, "Are you with the kitchen staff?" My mouth didn't move. I just blinked. She held out a laminated vendor access card and gestured toward a side door. I didn't argue. What was I supposed to say? "No, sweetie. I'm the sister of the bride, the invisible one." I entered through the back hallway. A server brushing past offered me a half-hearted smile, then looked away. The floor smelled like garlic and sweat. I followed the floral arch signs, hand-lettered with phrases like "this way to forever," until I found someone who directed me to my seat, or what they called a seat. It was shoved next to a clunky cart stacked with used silver trays. A folding chair with no cushion, no name card, just a folded paper napkin someone had probably used to wipe lipstick off a glass. The swinging kitchen door squeaked on its hinges, smacking the wall every 30 seconds like a metronome of humiliation. I sat down slowly. The chair groaned beneath me. Through the thin opening between the door and the frame, I could see the reception room glowing. Gold chargers, string lights, a custom neon sign that read, "The future is ours." My future, apparently, was in this corner, with the waitstaff. Tanya passed by, eyes darting toward me, then quickly away. She didn't stop. I didn't blame her. It's easier to pretend you didn't see someone than to explain why you didn't help them. No one came to say hi. No one asked if I needed water. Servers stepped around me like I was part of the equipment. I sat there inhaling steam from the kitchen, the smell of hot marinara thick in the air. It clung to my skin, mixed with the soft perfume I'd put on that morning, hoping to feel, I don't know, like I belonged, but I didn't. I looked down at my dress, soft burgundy, pleated by hand. I'd steamed it twice that morning, got my hair done at 7 a.m. It was curled just enough to frame my face without looking too done. I wanted to be respectful, presentable. I still don't know why. I guess I still believed somewhere inside that my presence mattered. The thing is, I had paid for this. Not just metaphorically, literally. The band, the upgraded dessert table, the custom candles. When Darlene called me 6 months ago, crying about how they'd maxed out their budget, I didn't hesitate. "We'll figure it out," I told her. "I've got it." And I did. What I didn't have was a seat. I shifted in my chair. It wobbled. My purse, a leather one Darlene gave me 3 birthdays ago, rested beside my foot on the sticky floor. A waiter's tray passed inches from my shoulder. Someone dropped a fork and didn't bother to pick it up. That's when I realized something. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't someone forgetting to place my name card or update the seating chart. This was deliberate. I could feel it in the way no one made eye contact. The way the playlist changed tempo the moment the mother of the groom was introduced. Leona, in a navy sheath dress with pearls. She gave a speech. Toasted to our beloved family. People clapped. She didn't mention me. Why would she? A month ago, I'd overheard her say, "Shanda's sweet, but she doesn't understand presentation, not like us." I had paid for that presentation, and now I was the stain they didn't want in the photo. A server passed by again and said, "You okay back here, ma'am?" I nodded. "I'm fine." He smiled like he didn't believe me, then walked off. I watched the golden light pulse from the reception room. The laughter, the champagne flutes raised, the curated joy. And me? I was the ghost behind the kitchen door. I reached into my purse and grabbed a tissue, dabbed the corner of my eye, not because I was crying, but because the heat was making my eyeliner sting. Then I sat straighter, let the moment soak, let the air fill with meaning, and I whispered, "Noted." The clinking of glasses from the reception room faded as the kitchen door swung shut behind another waiter. I sat still, lips pressed together, letting the heat settle into my bones. I'd been here before, just not physically. Emotionally, I'd known this corner. This kind of erasure didn't come all at once. It was small, precise, like a slow deletion. You start with a name off an email, and before long, you're a ghost in your own story. The day before, during the rehearsal dinner, I'd worn navy, classic, simple. I showed up early again because someone had to make sure the wine delivery was signed for. That someone had always been me. I didn't do it for thanks anymore. I did it because it would fall apart if I didn't. Darlene smiled when she saw me. One of those tight, curated expressions meant to look grateful, but rehearsed. "You're amazing, Shan. Seriously." She gave me a half hug before turning to greet Leona, who arrived 15 minutes late and somehow still took center stage. I'd written a short speech for the rehearsal dinner. It wasn't long, just a few words about growing up with Darlene, how she used to make sock puppets and pretend we were co-hosting a talk show, how she'd sing off-key in the car but never stopped performing. I kept it light. Sentimental, sure, but not sappy. When I told her about it 3 weeks ago, she tilted her head and said, "Maybe let's keep everything tight and aesthetic, you know? We've got a pretty packed timeline." I should have known right then. The very next day, an updated itinerary went out, this time from Leona's personal assistant. No mention of my speech, no slot for it. Not even a line that said TBD. I didn't push, didn't ask. That silence was sharp enough. Royce, her fiancé, didn't even blink when I brought it up, just nodded and said, "It's going to be a beautiful night. Let's not overcomplicate it." Tanya looked like she wanted to say something, but sipped her mimosa instead. I told myself it wasn't a big deal, that they were probably just trying to streamline the evening. But that was the second cut. The first? It might have been when Norma, one of the venue staff, leaned in during setup and whispered, "Leona's finalizing the seating again. She's going for that Napa Valley vibe. You know how she is." And then she rolled her eyes, but it was playful, not malicious, as if I was in on the joke. I wasn't laughing. I used to be part of those conversations. I used to approve layouts, not be sidelined by them. So I logged into the wedding planning spreadsheet that night, just to double-check a few details. Access denied. I tried again, no dice. The document I'd built from scratch, that I updated with every vendor contract, every floral adjustment, every invoice and deposit, was now marked Leona Events Private Access. She'd literally taken my work and rebranded it. My contact list, the one I used to manage band schedules, gluten-free orders, even the damn valet instructions, gone. When I texted about it, Darlene replied, "Oh, sorry, I thought Leona CC'd you. She's streamlining now. Less cooks in the kitchen, huh?" with a winking emoji. I didn't answer. That night, I checked the email thread about the rehearsal dinner location. I had placed the deposit, booked the room, selected the wine pairings, but somehow the final confirmation didn't include me, just Leona and her assistant. And my name wasn't listed on the staff contact sheet either. They'd made new lanyards. Mine wasn't among them. It wasn't oversight anymore. It was extraction. At the dinner, I was seated at the edge of the room, near a window with no view. The air conditioner blew directly on my shoulder. I kept a cardigan folded over my lap, unsure if I wanted warmth or just something to fidget with. Leona took the microphone at dessert. She stood at the center of the room, her voice smooth and crisp, like she was announcing an Oscar winner. This wedding would not have been possible without the support of so many. Truly, we are blessed. She thanked the venue, the photographer, the calligrapher, the DJ. Then she said, "And of course, to the family, Darlene's wonderful friends and our circle who made this a dream." She lifted her glass. People clinked. Darlene beamed. I stared down at my untouched wine. No one mentioned the woman who paid for the 5-tier cake, or the woman who negotiated the dance floor upgrade, or the woman who filled in all the budget gaps while her sister called the shots and someone else cashed the credit. I wasn't forgotten. I'd been deleted, and I finally believed it. They'd cut me out piece by piece, like trimming a photo until I no longer fit the frame. And yet, I was still standing there, quiet, polite, swallowing the silence they handed me like it was dessert. But something shifted when Leona said, "This dream come true." Because it wasn't my dream, and it wasn't theirs either. Not entirely. It was mine. Funded by my sacrifices, executed by my effort, and now paraded without my presence. I looked around the room one last time. Smiles everywhere, curated, polished. I thought, you erased me, so don't flinch when I start disappearing. The next day rolled in with a sky the color of dishwater and the kind of humidity that made even silk feel heavy. I sat alone in the hotel room for a few minutes longer than I should have. I'd dressed, done my makeup, fixed the hem on my dress again. Burgundy, same as yesterday. The one shade that didn't fit their curated pastel palette. I wore it again on purpose. I checked my phone. One new message from Tanya. "Hey, so sorry, Sean. They said only the bridal team can be backstage. Maybe just wait outside?" Bridal team, not family, not sister. Just team, like a cast. And I was no longer on the call sheet. I headed to the venue early again, hoping I'd at least get a moment with Darlene before the ceremony started. She and I hadn't talked since that odd smile she gave me at the rehearsal. Not that she reached out. Not even a, "Thanks again for making all this happen." When I got to the prep room, the door was shut. There was no knock, no greeting, just the muffled sounds of curling irons hissing, someone laughing, and the occasional flash from a camera through the frosted glass. I lingered a moment too long, waiting for someone to notice I was there. No one did. Inside, Leona was mid-touch-up. Her voice rang out, instructing someone about floral placements near the gift table like she was the event director. I turned away without knocking. I'd paid for the cake, the band, and even the monogrammed napkins. But I wasn't welcome inside the room. I should have left then. I didn't. Instead, I wandered the hallway aimlessly for a bit, heels clicking too loudly on the concrete. I passed a staffer who glanced up from his clipboard and motioned toward a different hallway. "You're here for the ceremony, right?" I nodded. He didn't wait for confirmation. "We're tight on space, so they've asked some guests to sit along the side entrance for overflow." Overflow. He led me down a dim side corridor, turned a corner, and pointed at a lone chair next to a stack of used trays. No decorations, no signage, just a paper napkin tossed across the seat like it had been left behind by accident. He patted his clipboard. "Just wait here until they start calling the tables. It's pretty packed in there right now." Then he disappeared. The door to the reception room swung open again. Warm yellow light spilled out, along with the faint echo of a violin warming up. I caught the opening notes of the first dance. I sat down. The chair was wobbly. The legs scraped against the uneven floor, making an awkward screeching noise when I shifted. The smell of garlic and frying oil clung to everything, even my hair. The back of my neck felt damp, not just from heat, but from something else I didn't want to name. Humiliation? Regret? I reached down and adjusted the strap on my shoe. I could hear the first announcements being made. Something about the couple's entrance. Something about love being eternal. A wheel on the tray cart behind me let out a long, slow squeal as someone pushed it down the hall. Every sound around me was sharp and out of place, and then I heard someone behind me. "Ma'am, are you one of the coordinators? You're with catering, right?" It was a young server, couldn't have been more than 19. Her voice was kind, curious. I turned slowly, trying not to show the sting in my chest. "No," I said softly, but the girl already looked embarrassed. "Sorry, it's just, you're in the vendor area and never mind." She moved on. I sat there, in my $300 dress. With makeup I'd paid someone 2 hours' wages to apply, with no place card, no seat at the table, no mention in the program. The program. I pulled it out from my clutch, cream cardstock, elegant script, custom wax seal on the back. I'd paid extra for that seal. Darlene had said it gave the whole thing a modern heirloom feel. I opened it slowly, scanning the page. Her father walked her down the aisle. Her new mother-in-law gave the welcome speech. There was a paragraph thanking the special friends and supporters who made the dream possible. No mention of me. I wasn't family, I wasn't friend. I wasn't anything at all. I looked through the door again. The lights were lower now, the photographer circling the dance floor as Darlene and Royce moved in sync. She laughed, her hand grazing his cheek. And then she saw me. Our eyes locked. She smiled, calm, collected. Not the smile of someone who forgot to include me. The smile of someone who planned not to. She turned away before I could react. I looked down at the program in my lap again. My hands were steady now, but not cold, just clear. I folded the paper in half, slowly, neatly. Then I folded it again, set it down beside my purse, and whispered to no one. So this is where I stopped clapping. The clapping roared just beyond the kitchen door. I could hear the metal mic screech slightly, then Royce's voice filled the room like he was emceeing a pageant. He was thanking everyone, his parents, Darlene's parents, Leona. The organizing rock who made this day look and feel like magic, he said. People whooped, cheered. I heard Tanya laugh faintly in the background. Then came Darlene's dad. His voice was warm, folksy. When my little girl said she wanted a fairy tale, we never imagined something this beautiful. A pause. And thanks to the many hands that made this day happen. Many hands. I wasn't one of them. I stayed still in my chair, fingers lightly touching the edge of the program I'd folded earlier. It rested beside me like a discarded napkin, neat, tucked, and ignored. Not one name, not one nod, and certainly not mine. I was the one who made the down payment on the venue. I paid for the lighting. I negotiated with the band twice after they tried to increase their rates last minute. I Venmo'd the florist a $3,000 deposit 3 months ago. But tonight I was sitting behind a tray of used forks and a bucket of kitchen towels. I turned on my phone. The glow lit up my lap. I pulled open my inbox and typed in receipt. The search returned dozens of hits. I scrolled through the digital proof of my presence. Band, $5,200. Venue, $12,000. Florals, $3,400. Catering deposit, $9,800. Linens, portable heaters, neon signage, custom signature cocktails. I scrolled and scrolled. Over $42,000. And not one toast in my direction. I remembered Darlene's voice in my head, syrupy and rehearsed. You'll cover this last upgrade, right? It'll mean the world. I said yes, like I always did. I thought saying yes was my way of loving her. Turns out it was just my way of disappearing. My phone buzzed again. Darlene, please don't make this about you. This is our day, and your mood is visible. Then another. Leona, you're being petty. If you ruin this, that's on you. The gall, the arrogance. I stared at the screen. The text sat there, blue bubbles against white space, like bruises waiting to spread. I didn't text back, didn't even blink. Instead, I opened the folder in my phone labeled Wedding Docs. There was a subfolder for Sunday Brunch, another for Bar Service Final Invoice, pending. I stared at the brunch invoice for a moment longer than necessary. $4,600, still unpaid. I could cancel it with a single call. The florist delivery for the next morning, still refundable. My name wasn't mentioned. But my money? My effort? They were the invisible foundation holding this wedding up like scaffolding. Quiet, sturdy, unseen, but vital. I looked up. Someone wheeled by with another tray of champagne glasses. The server didn't see me. I could have disappeared right then and no one would have noticed. Not really. And then I remembered something else. 3 weeks ago, I caught Royce at the coffee shop near my house, reviewing layout notes with Leona. Not Darlene, not me. When I walked up, he flinched. Oh, hey, Shan, we were just, finalizing details Darlene's too busy for. And Leona didn't look up. She just said, some people contribute better from the sidelines. That's when it started. The shift. That invisible shove from the center of the room to the edge of the frame. A repositioning. A subtle exile. Now, I looked around the hallway. Concrete floor. Yellowing paint. The sound of silverware clinking just a wall away. And suddenly, the silence wasn't humiliating anymore. It was revealing. This wasn't my wedding, but it had been my investment. And now they wanted my silence too. I closed my email, switched over to the banking app, and hovered over the brunch payment. The words pending confirmation blinked slowly, rhythmically, like a countdown. They erased me so easily. Maybe it was time I erased something of my own. A slow breath. I put the phone down on my lap. Didn't text back. Didn't cry. Didn't flinch. I just stared at that pending brunch invoice and thought, I paid to be erased. Let's see how they react when I vanish myself. Back in my hotel room, the world felt padded. Soft, like everything was muffled by a layer of invisible cotton. I hadn't taken off my dress. Burgundy chiffon clung to my legs as I sat on the edge of the bed, shoes still on, makeup still perfect. The silence in the room wasn't comforting. It was surgical. I reached into my bag, pulled out my laptop, and powered it up. The glow of the screen was the only light in the room, casting blue shadows across the comforter. I opened the master wedding budget spreadsheet. Line by line, I went through it. I'd organized everything. Deposits, final payments, backup vendors, contingency fees. I knew every entry because I wrote them. But now, there were new additions. A second tasting session at a vineyard in Asheville. A luxury rehearsal upgrade at the hotel bar. I hadn't approved those. I scrolled to the far right column where the payment sources were logged. My name, my card. I clicked open my Venmo. One message floated to the top from Darlene to the wedding planner. His sister's covering everything, go big! I stared at it, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Not my sister, not even Shanda, just his sister. Like I was a tool, a placeholder, a credit line with legs. This wasn't negligence, this was theft wrapped in glitter. The pain didn't land all at once. It came in dull waves, like a slow storm building offshore. I shut the laptop, set it on the side table. I didn't trust my hands to stay steady. I stood up, took 3 slow steps to the drawer of the nightstand and opened it. There it was, a red folder. I'd brought it from home weeks ago, meaning to finally read what was inside. My father's letter. He'd written it before he passed, but I'd never opened it. I think part of me was afraid he'd explain the kind of man he really was, or maybe afraid I wouldn't like the truth. Tonight, I wanted to know. My fingers slid under the flap. The paper inside had yellowed slightly. I sat back down and unfolded it. The handwriting was unmistakably his. Large, sharp, deliberate. Shanda, there's something I need to tell you before I go. Darlene isn't biologically yours. Her mother left her with me when she was an infant. I never told you. I didn't think I needed to. But I see now that truth has a way of showing up anyway. Love, Dad. I didn't cry. I didn't gasp or drop the letter dramatically like someone in a movie. I just sat, staring at the ceiling fan, letting the hum fill the gaps between his words. Then I whispered to no one. Then why did I stay? Why did I let them use me? For years. I paid for Darlene's first car. I paid for half her college tuition when Dad's savings ran out. I let her sleep in my bed after her first divorce. I helped her draft the apology letter to her first fiancé. And I always assumed we were blood. Sisters. Even when it didn't feel mutual, I convinced myself that love didn't need to be matched to be real. But now I knew the truth. I wasn't her sister. I was her shadow. I looked at the bedside lamp. Its buzz was loud in the quiet, a mosquito of sound that made it impossible to forget I was alone. I grabbed my phone again, opened Instagram. There it was, the official wedding photo, posted just 20 minutes ago, captioned, "Couldn't have asked for a more beautiful day. Special thanks to our matron of honor, Leona, for making the magic happen." My jaw clenched. Leona, matron of honor? She wasn't even blood. She wasn't a sister. She wasn't there for Darlene in 2009 when she spiraled after the DUI. She wasn't there when Darlene almost lost her job at the design firm for plagiarizing a client's Pinterest board. I was. And now, Leona wore the crown. I was listed nowhere, not even in the background. I thought back to the hours I spent scrolling Etsy, hunting down affordable floral backdrops. I remembered the time I drove to Charlotte in the rain to pick up the personalized signage after the courier failed. And now, I wasn't even a footnote. I sat back, let the phone rest on my stomach. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about reclamation. My name, my time, my money, my silence. All of it had been handed out freely like confetti. No more. I opened my email, typed 3 short messages. each one colder than the last. I didn't reread them. I didn't need to. Then I opened the wedding brunch invoice again, still unpaid. I stared at it, didn't blink, didn't smile. Just felt the clarity wash over me like a tide coming in slow. I wasn't going to scream. I didn't need to. They'd feel it. When the music stopped, I didn't sleep. Not really. I must have dozed off sometime past midnight, still dressed, still buzzing from everything I refused to say. But by 5:30 a.m., my eyes opened to the thin silver blue of morning light slicing through the blackout curtains. The wedding was over. But the story was just beginning to turn. The silence in my hotel room wasn't hollow anymore. It had edges, purpose. I sat up, reached for my phone on the nightstand, and checked the brunch invoice again. Pending confirmation still blinked. No response from the messages I'd sent the night before. Not even a half-hearted attempt at damage control. I took a long breath and stood. Walked barefoot to the little coffee machine by the window, popped in a pod, let it brew while I scrolled through my contact list. Florist first, then the band, then the bar team. Each call lasted less than a minute. "Hi, this is Shanda Carter. Due to a change in plans, we're canceling today's brunch service. Yes, I understand the policy. Please send confirmation to the email on file. Thank you." No emotion, no explanation, just logistics. The final call ended with a simple, "Noted," and I turned my phone off. Not silent in surrender, silent in power. By the time the coffee cooled enough to sip, I had already checked out online, packed my bag, folded my dress into its garment bag without a second glance. I didn't need to look back at it again. That dress was a chapter that didn't deserve a reread. I left the hotel by 7 a.m., drove the hour back to my town just outside Charleston, and pulled into my driveway. The front hedges needed trimming. A package sat on the porch. My house looked like it always did. Quiet, normal, mine. Inside, the stillness greeted me like a friend. I dropped my keys in the bowl, kicked off my shoes, and stepped into the kitchen. It smelled faintly of lemon from the diffuser I'd set days ago. By noon, I sat at the dining table, sunlight streaking across the hardwood floor, and opened my Facebook. I didn't type anything, didn't post a caption or a quote or a dig disguised as wisdom. I uploaded a single image, a scanned copy of the check I wrote, $42,000, signed clearly in black ink. The memo line said, "Wedding deposits," and I hit post. That was it. By 12:47 p.m., there were already 18 comments. Wait, I thought Leona paid for everything? Hold on, why would she cover that much? Shanda? Was she even there? By 1:15 p.m., my cousin Tanya texted, "Tanya, this is blowing up. People are talking." I didn't reply. I opened my fridge, pulled out a bundle of asparagus, a lemon, and a small piece of salmon, set a pot of water to boil, turned on Coltrane. The jazz played low while I moved through the kitchen like it was mine again. Because it was. Always had been. I sliced, sautéed, stirred, lit a small candle, just because I wanted to. And when I finally sat down to eat, it was the first meal in months I'd cooked for me. No planning around someone else's tastes, no plating for Instagram, just comfort, heat, salt, and honesty. I looked at the blank wall in the hallway. It used to hold a gallery of family photos. Darlene's wedding invites, my dad's army picture, our beach trip when I turned 30, all gone now. Taken down the night before the wedding. It didn't feel empty. It felt earned. Peace earned through truth. By 7 p.m., I had washed every dish, wiped down the counters, and folded the dish towel over the sink edge. Then, just as I reached to turn off the light, the doorbell rang. I froze. One long chime. I didn't move. Let it ring again. And again. I could see the shadow behind the frosted glass. Someone shifting, uncertain, waiting. I stepped back, leaned against the counter, and let the silence expand. Let them sit in their discomfort the way I sat in mine. The doorbell rang one last time. I didn't answer. I didn't move. Not when the doorbell rang a third time. Not when the knocking followed, short and sharp, like a warning tap before a storm. I stayed right where I was, one hand on the countertop, the other curled into the fabric of my sweater. But I knew that knock, not in the sound, but in the rhythm. It was Darlene. I walked to the front door and pulled it open before she could hit the bell again. There she stood, dressed like the wedding hadn't ended, hair perfect, lips tight, heels too high for Sunday. Royce was 2 steps behind her, expression unreadable. And to her right, Leona, cool as ever, draped in cream silk and a stare that could burn holes through granite. None of them said hi. Darlene stepped forward first, voice tight. "Why would you do that? Post the check like that? You embarrassed everyone." I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "Did I?" "You made us look like users," she said, eyes flashing. "Like we just took everything and shoved you aside." Leona scoffed from behind. "You humiliated your own family, Shanda. For what? Attention?" I let the silence ride out for a moment. Then I looked Darlene straight in the eye and said evenly, "I'm not your family. You made that clear yesterday." That hit. Darlene blinked. Her mouth opened, but no words came. I stepped aside from the door, not to let them in, but to walk over to the hallway shelf. I reached into the drawer and pulled out the red folder I'd brought back with me from the hotel. It was already creased from being handled so many times the night before. I opened it, pulled out the letter, and held it toward her. She hesitated, took it. Her hands trembled as she read. She read it once, then again, slower. Her mouth twitched when she reached the last line. Our father's words, written in blue ink years ago. "Darlene isn't biologically yours. Her mother left her with me. I never told you." Royce looked from her to me. "You knew?" "I knew before I paid for your lies," I said. "But I needed one of you to say it, out loud." Leona said nothing. She just watched me, chin high, breath shallow. Darlene's voice cracked. "I didn't know how to tell you." "You didn't want to," I replied, not bitter, just done. "You wanted what I could give, not who I was." Her shoulders dropped. I saw it. The weight, the collapse, the realization that I hadn't come to beg for an apology. I had come to deliver the truth. Royce looked ready to play mediator. "You're still her sister in every way that counts." I shook my head. Then she should have treated me like one. I turned toward the door, opened it wide this time. I was the kitchen help, remember? Consider this the end of my shift. No one moved. Finally, Darlene stepped back. Royce followed, hand on her elbow. Leona paused, gave me one last look, half pity, half loathing, then turned and walked down the steps. I didn't slam the door. I closed it with the kind of quiet that echoes louder than rage. I locked it, turned the deadbolt, and pressed my forehead against the wood for a second. Just a second. Then I turned around and took the deepest breath I'd taken in days. It filled me. It didn't shake. It steadied. I walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and sat down at the table. My phone buzzed beside me. "Tanya. You okay?" I stared at the screen. Then I typed back, "I'm more than okay. I'm clean." I opened my photo drive, selected the wedding album, every file, every subfolder. Deleted, gone, no backups, no second thoughts. I looked around my space, mine again. Then I opened a new folder, labeled it, What I Keep. The new folder sat open on my screen. What I keep. I didn't fill it. Not yet. I wasn't in a rush to curate the remnants of who I had been to people who had never paused long enough to ask. I just left it there. Empty. Quiet. Honest. The phone buzzed again. Once. Then twice. I ignored it until I'd finished rinsing the last mug from my tea, set it upside down on the drying mat. Only then did I dry my hands and walk back to the table. 15 missed calls, 4 voicemails, 3 from Darlene, 1 from Leona. The last text came in just before midnight. "Darlene, we need to fix this. Call me." Right below it, Leona, "You should be ashamed. Family doesn't humiliate family." I let the screen dim for a beat before I swiped up. Blocked. Blocked. No reply, no explanation, no space left in my life for people who expected applause from the one they shoved backstage. I set the phone face down. That's when I remembered the box. I hadn't opened it in years, maybe since Dad passed. I pulled the step stool into the closet and reached for the top shelf. The cardboard was soft at the corners. The tape yellowed from time. Written in black marker, "Family." I carried it to the living room and sat cross-legged on the carpet. The first thing I pulled out was a birthday card Darlene had drawn when she was 8. crayon hearts, and crooked lettering, to the best big sister. I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. Not because it wasn't real, but because it didn't matter anymore. That girl, that version of her, hadn't shown up in a long time. Next came the Polaroids, snowball fights, Halloween costumes, a blurry Thanksgiving dinner where everyone laughed except me. I sorted slowly. Donate, trash, keep. Only one photo made it to the final pile. Me, alone on a swing set, maybe 6 or 7, mid-laugh, legs kicked out toward the sky. I got up, walked it to the kitchen, and slid a magnet over the corner, right above the stove. I stared at it for a long time. That girl hadn't needed anyone to clap. She was laughing anyway. I lit a small candle on the table and pulled out a blank sheet of paper. Not a journal, not a post, just something for me. I wrote, I gave, I built, I supported, and I was never seen. Now I see me. I choose me. I folded it in half, placed it under the candle like a quiet altar. The silence wrapped around me, not cold this time, not isolating, just full, complete, peaceful. I sat there for a while, the soft flicker dancing against the walls. The shadows weren't ghosts. They were mine, and they moved when I moved. The phone buzzed once more. Tanya again. You good? I smiled softly, typed back. I'm more than okay. I'm clean. Then I leaned back, looked around the space that was fully mine now. The absence didn't ache. It breathed. I whispered to no one. No more applause for people who never clapped for me. The candle flame dipped low, then straightened. Outside, the darkness cracked. The first soft light of Monday morning crept across the window ledge like a quiet promise. Time to set my own table. A week passed. The house had been quieter than ever, but it wasn't lonely. It had space now, room to think, room to breathe, and most importantly, room to choose. The morning light moved differently across the kitchen floor these days. Maybe because I stopped rearranging myself to match someone else's idea of family. Maybe because I wasn't shrinking anymore. No calls from Darlene since that last text. No updates from Royce except a single message 2 days ago. I hope someday you understand. Understand what? That silence is more acceptable than confrontation? That funding a lie makes it prettier? I never answered. I didn't need to. Instead, I replanted basil in the kitchen window. I fixed the hinge on the laundry door. I played Miles Davis records without wondering if someone would ask me to change the vibe. The life was mine now. Clean, still, unapologetic. On Friday night, I invited a few people over. Nothing fancy. Just lasagna, garlic bread, salad, and a bottle of red I'd been saving for too long. The guests? A retired nurse from down the block who always waved when I walked past. A newly divorced friend I hadn't seen in years. A couple who ran the bakery around the corner. My neighbor Jacob, who offered to help carry groceries once and never overstepped. And Tanya. Yes, Tanya. She showed up with a bottle of white and a nervous smile. Hope I'm not overstepping, she said, stepping into the foyer like it held landmines. I just opened my arms and said, Welcome to my real life. We sat outside under string lights I'd installed myself, the kind that didn't try too hard to be impressive. Just warm, just enough. We ate, we talked, laughed. Nobody asked for speeches. No one hovered with fake compliments. Nobody told me I was too sensitive or reading into things. When the wine glasses clinked, Jacob raised his and said, To people who show up, even when they weren't asked to. Everyone smiled, and I raised mine too, not to complete the circle, but to anchor myself in it. This was what a table felt like when you weren't sitting at the edge, waiting to be acknowledged. This was choosing your seat instead of begging for one. Later that night, after everyone left, I stood by the sink rinsing plates. Not one dish had been broken. Not one word felt off. It was the first time in years I ended a dinner without checking if someone was quietly disappointed in me. I walked into the office, reached for the red folder I'd kept tucked away on the shelf, the one that held truths I never asked for. I opened it, looked at the stack. There were letters from Dad. Some I had read before, some I hadn't. I pulled out one. The one he wrote before he passed. His handwriting still shaky, but clear. You don't need blood to be real, you just need love that shows up. I read it twice, then slid it into a new folder labeled New Start. The rest I shredded, one by one, not because they didn't matter once, but because they no longer controlled the narrative. I sat at my desk for a moment, then picked up a pen and wrote a note to myself on clean paper. I stayed, I survived, I begin again. I folded it, slipped it into the folder. I didn't need their stories anymore. I was writing mine. Outside, the night air was warm. The porch called to me, so I stepped out with a mug of chamomile in hand and wrapped my robe tighter. There was no noise, no chaos, no spotlight I hadn't asked for. Just the wind, the faint sound of crickets, and the hum of a life not curated for anyone else. I sipped my tea, looked out into the street, and smiled. Not the smile I gave when I was hiding pain, but the kind that came when you stopped pretending you didn't matter. I used to wait for a seat at their table. Now I'd built my own. They say family is where you're supposed to feel safest. But sometimes, the deepest cuts come from the people you once trusted with everything. Looking back now, I don't regret the silence I kept. I regret how long I kept it. I thought love meant sacrificing without being seen. I thought being the strong one meant enduring disrespect with a smile. But here's what I know now. Silence is not strength if it costs you your dignity. Forgiveness doesn't mean staying where you're not valued. And family, real family, is built on truth, not blood or convenience. If you're watching this and you've ever felt invisible in your own story, please hear me. You don't need anyone's permission to walk away from harm. You are allowed to start over, to draw a line, to rebuild something just for you. Now I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever been in a moment where walking away was the strongest thing you could do? Do you believe silence can be powerful? Or do you think it sometimes hides too much pain? Let me know in the comments. Drop a 1 if this story hit home for you. Or tell me where you're watching from. I read every single one, and if you didn't connect with this story, I still want to know why. Share your thoughts. Your voice matters here. If this video made you feel seen, if it touched something real in you, then hit that subscribe button and join this growing space for stories that heal, empower, and spark change. Hi there, my name's Jolene, and yeah, the title's real. My husband divorced me by email while I was deployed overseas. And as if that wasn't enough, he drained our joint account and moved his new girlfriend into my house. My dog still listens to her, but that was just the start. Forged signatures, secret sales, fake mortgage papers, FBI files, and the worst part? It wasn't just betrayal, it was a plan, and I never saw it coming. So, how do you fight back when you're 7,000 miles away in uniform, and everything you built is being stolen? I wasn't expecting anything. Just another quiet end to a long, hot day in Zarqa. Dust in my boots, static in the air, and sand clinging to my skin like regret. I dropped onto my bunk with that dull ache behind my eyes that comes from too much thinking and not enough sleep. Out of habit, I reached for my tablet, flicked on the base Wi-Fi, and checked my inbox. The subject line stopped me cold. Let's be adults about this. I didn't even click at first. My finger hovered. Some part of me knew. When I opened it, there were only 3 sentences. I've filed for divorce. Melina's moved in. I've moved our joint savings. Less confusion this way. No greeting, no explanation, just a casual death sentence for a 13-year marriage. I stared. I reread. Then again. My chest didn't tighten. It froze. My pulse didn't race. It just stopped caring. I closed the email, locked the screen, and sat very still. The room hummed around me, muffled voices, a faint clang from the mess hall, the low whir of fans. But it all faded. I was suddenly underwater. I grabbed a towel and headed to the communal showers. The cold water stung, but I barely felt it. Afterward, I dressed without rushing, without trembling, without a word. Pierce, my bunkmate, glanced up from his paperback. "You all right?" he asked, like it was just another bad comms report. "Just family stuff," I said. He nodded. "In the army, we don't press. We observe. We file it away." Later that night, after my shift, I opened our bank app. $22.37. It felt like I'd been slapped. No, dissected. Methodical cuts done slowly while I was thousands of miles away, focused on defending a country that wouldn't defend me back. I scrolled through the transaction history. There it was. Small withdrawals at first, sneaky. then $4,000, then $9,800, then 3 separate ones over $15,000, all spaced perfectly to avoid triggering alerts. Melina's name showed up as a memo on 2 of them. She didn't just move in, she'd been moving in, piece by piece. And I hadn't seen it coming. The final transfer? The day after I left the country. I didn't scream, I didn't call, I didn't throw anything. I watched the numbers vanish like smoke. I sat in my bunk, surrounded by olive drab blankets and the smell of iron and dust, and I made a list. And then I whispered to myself, "All right, Kurt, you just started a war." I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was crying, tears are a luxury out here, but because my brain wouldn't shut off. Around 0400, while the rest of the barracks drifted into light snores and rustling sheets, I logged into our home security app. It was a system I'd installed myself, quietly, after one too many weird deliveries when I was overseas last time. Kurt thought I was paranoid. Maybe I was. I tapped into the live feed, expecting an empty house, maybe a glimpse of the backyard maple. What I saw was a stranger making coffee in my kitchen. She was wearing my army fleece, the one with the patch I never let Kurt wash. Her blonde hair was tied up in a loose bun, and she moved around the space like she owned it, like I never existed. Then she turned toward the sink, my mug, the black one from my first tour. I recognized the chip on the handle. She laughed into her phone and I heard her say, "I told Kurt this place would look even better once I get the curtains changed." She was redecorating my house. I tapped to rewind the feed. A few hours earlier, she'd walked Maple, my dog, my best friend in every lonely PCS move. Maple wagged her tail and obeyed like nothing had changed. The door closed behind them. And that's when I noticed it. My wedding picture was gone from the entryway shelf. In its place was some dried eucalyptus in a tacky glass vase. I didn't move. I didn't blink. I watched that woman pour creamer into my coffee mug and lean against the counter. I sanded myself. Then I backed out of the app, opened notes, and started typing. Melina Croft, curtains, fleece jacket. Maple obeys her. Mug, tour patch, wedding photo gone. $72,000 withdrawn. At the top of the list, I typed one word. Retribution. He didn't just replace me, he erased me, and she made it look easy. But I'm not gone, I'm not broken, and I'm sure as hell not done. By the next night, after my second consecutive graveyard shift, I sat on the concrete step outside the barracks, letting the desert breeze dry the sweat on the back of my neck. My list was growing, not just with facts, dates, names, transactions, but with memories I'd buried too deep for too long. Things that made sense now in ways they hadn't before. It started with dinner 3 months before deployment. We were at a steakhouse in Lexington. Kurt's favorite place, not mine. Melina tagged along, supposedly just a friend from work. She laughed a little too loud at his dry jokes. Asked me how much equity we had in the house. Said things like, "If I were you, I'd rent it out. Sitting on money like that makes no sense." At the time, I thought she was clueless. Now I think she was casing it. I told Kurt later that night it felt weird, her being there, her questions. He brushed it off with that lazy grin. "You're always reading into stuff," he said. "She's just friendly. Don't be that wife." I wanted to believe him, so I did. Then there was the password. 3 weeks before my flight, I tried logging into our bank account. Got locked out. He texted, "Changed it for security. Don't want anything compromised while you're gone." I didn't even blink, just said, "Cool, can you send me the new one?" He did. And now I wonder, was that the real one or just a decoy? Did he keep the real one for himself and feed me a sandbox version? I keep replaying that night too, the night I packed my duffel. I caught him staring at the papers on our dining table, title deed, mortgage forms, all neatly stacked from the VA refinance talk we never finished. I asked, "What's that?" He said, "Just sorting old stuff. You worry about staying safe over there." That's how he played me. Deflect. Distract. Keep me looking at the smoke while he worked behind the curtain. I let it happen. And now I was done doing that. I didn't wait for the anger to fade. I let it sharpen. It carried me across the concrete lot, past rows of armored trucks, into the comms tent where the Wi-Fi signal was strong and nobody asked questions. The only thing louder than the hum of the server rack was the sound of my heart narrowing into purpose. I pulled up my cloud drive, one I never told Kurt about. Every important file we'd scanned together, mortgage papers, Virginia loan documents, insurance forms, it was all there. I scrolled until I found the mortgage update from 8 months ago. The one Kurt said was, "Just a refinance inquiry." The signature stared back at me. My name was there, but the stroke on the J wasn't mine. The middle initial was wrong. I stared for a moment, then opened my driver's license and compared. No match. I took a screenshot and texted it to Seth Vaughn, an old Army contact turned civilian attorney in Bowling Green. He responded almost instantly. "That's forged, no question. You ready to go official?" I didn't answer right away. I scrolled down the document and saw something even worse. Melina was listed as co-applicant. Her name, on my home. That was the last push I needed. Seth and I connected on a secure call. His voice was steady, controlled. "You've got leverage now, Jolene. A forged federal document with a VA loan attached? That's criminal. If we move now, we control the board." I sent him every file, every screenshot. He told me he'd reach out to the county records office, the lender, and the VA fraud division. My job? Document everything and stay quiet. After hanging up, I opened a new file. My checklist. Call VA loan fraud line. Report forged refinance. Document Melina's residency and access to the property. Track withdrawals. Secure title and pension statements. Then I remembered something from a few weeks before I deployed. Kurt had pushed hard for us to sell the house. "Why are we sitting on this equity?" he'd said. "We're always moving anyway." He made it sound like a financial strategy. But now I saw it for what it was. Preparation. Clearing the path before the strike. I finished my checklist and sent it to Seth. Minutes later, he texted one word back. "Confirmed." The message from Seth still glowed on my screen. One word, confirmed, and yet it cracked the silence inside my chest wide open. I took a breath, deep and cold, and pushed away from the desk in the comms tent. Outside, the night air had turned sharp. I needed the sting. It kept me focused. I came back 20 minutes later with a cup of burned coffee and a mind running like a recon drone. My laptop was already on. I logged into the home security feed again. Habit now. But what I saw this time wasn't just a gut punch. It was war. A new face. Mid-50s, balding, business casual khakis, clipboard in hand. He moved through my kitchen like it was an open house. He ran his fingers across the granite countertops, nodded approvingly at the hardwood I refinished myself. And then, there they were. Kurt, Melina. He said her name. "Ray," Kurt began. "We'd like to move fast. List it by Friday. Cash preferred. She's not going to contest. She's stationed overseas." She, not Jolene. I didn't exist. Just an inconvenient detail they planned around. Ray nodded. "Shouldn't be a problem. I'll get the ball rolling." They laughed, as if they hadn't gutted 13 years of my life and left the bones behind. I hit record. No rage, no yelling, just record, save, and upload to my drive. Then I forwarded the entire clip to Seth. He didn't need context. The image of my husband planning to sell the house behind my back with his mistress in tow said enough. I opened a blank message, typed slowly. "I see everything. Stop now." Then I stared at it for 5 long minutes and closed the window without sending. Let him feel safe. Let him get comfortable. Rats don't flee until they smell smoke. Later that night, I pulled out my journal. The one I kept zipped in my deployment locker, buried under backup socks and MRE protein bars. I flipped to a clean page and wrote, "Next time I see them talk about my house, they'll be in handcuffs." Not hope, not revenge, just logistics. By sunrise, I was done writing warnings. The sky outside the comms tent was pale orange, sand and cloud blending into one long stretch of silence. I hadn't slept, but I didn't need rest. I needed justice, and I was done waiting for permission. At 0600, I used the satellite line to call Seth. No pleasantries this time, just purpose. I said, "It's time," and he didn't hesitate. He patched me through to someone else, a voice I didn't recognize. "Agent Torres," the man said. His tone was flat, clipped, FBI kind of clipped. I introduced myself, gave my military ID, laid out the situation. I spoke clean, tight, and without 1 ounce of emotion. documents, forgery, recorded footage, the unauthorized refinance, the listing conversation. He didn't interrupt once. When I finished, Torres said simply, "Miss Ray, what you're describing is not just marital betrayal. It's wire fraud, identity theft, and potentially a conspiracy to defraud a federal loan program." I stayed quiet. "Do you want to press formal charges?" he asked. I didn't blink. "Yes." The silence between us held weight. Then he added, "Good, because we've been looking into Ray Kincaid already. Your case may tie some things together." Seth called me back 20 minutes later with a secure link. We filed the paperwork, every accusation under my name, time-stamped and verified. I signed the digital complaint and submitted 3 notarized statements. One from me, one from our financial institution, and one from our loan officer who confirmed I'd never approved anything. After that, I didn't feel angry anymore. I felt cold, sharp. I uploaded the entire evidence package to an encrypted folder and forwarded the link to 3 places: my attorney's vault, the VA fraud unit, and a secure contact at my bank's legal division. Then I logged back into the house security feed. I hit record. Let them smile. Let them pose and pretend. The fuse had been lit, and if they were smart, they'd stop now. By the end of the second week, I wasn't in Jordan anymore. I was stepping off a connecting flight into the quiet gray of a Kentucky morning, landing in Louisville under a different name. It was one of those old army tricks: fake IDs, borrowed names, burner phones, things we rarely needed inside the States. But this time was different. This time, the rules didn't apply. I didn't call anyone, didn't go home. I picked up a rental car using my middle name and drove east until the city gave way to long stretches of silence and open road. I ended up in a worn-out motel just outside Lexington, the kind of place where nobody asks questions, and the front desk clerk barely looks up. I checked in, pulled the curtains tight, and waited. Morning came too fast. My phone buzzed just after 7. It was Torres. "You sitting down?" he asked. "I'm listening," I said. He exhaled like he'd been holding something in. "Melina got pulled over last night. Expired tags, in your truck." I closed my eyes. Of course it was the truck. "She had 2 stolen prescription pads in the glove box," he went on. "Both traced back to that dental clinic she worked at last year. You know who just filed a report last month? Same clinic. Missing pads, suspected fraud." I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. "That's felony drug fraud right there," Torres added. "And that's before we get to the mortgage scheme. She's tangled up in all of it. It's starting to come apart." I hung up without another word. Just sat there for a minute, hands resting steady on the wheel of the rental, parked 3 blocks from my own house. Funny, not even a tremble. The part of me that used to react was long gone. I opened the camera app and brought the live feed back up. I'd rigged the house with surveillance the day before I left. Tiny cameras tucked into vents, a mic hidden behind the mantelpiece, a backup feed uploading to the cloud every 12 hours. Old habits. Right on cue, Ray Kincaid strutted through the front door like it belonged to him. Again, this time with a briefcase. He didn't even hesitate. Just walked in like he'd done it 100 times. Kurt was right behind him, loud, careless, arms flailing like a man who thinks no one's watching, like nothing could touch him. I texted Torres. Live visual feed, primary residence, suspects on site, unauthorized entry. 27 minutes later, the cavalry arrived. 3 unmarked SUVs rolled up the street in perfect silence. No sirens, no lights, just clean, practiced execution. Men in FBI windbreakers stepped out like ghosts materializing from the morning fog. Ray was the first out in cuffs, calm at first, then confused when he realized this wasn't some misunderstanding. Then came Kurt, mouth running, still trying to talk his way out of it, loud as ever, still thinking he could bluff his way free. But Melina made it personal. They pulled her out of the house in handcuffs, screaming my name like it was a curse. "You set me up! You crazy military bitch! This was you!" She fought the agents like they were the enemy, as if I had betrayed her, as if she was the one who got ambushed. I watched from down the street, sitting behind tinted glass. My face didn't move. I didn't smile. I didn't blink. Some people think karma takes its time. They think it knocks first, gives you a warning. It doesn't. Sometimes it breaks down the door. I didn't sleep that night. I watched the sun crack open over Lexington from the motel parking lot, arms folded across the wheel, the weight of justice just starting to settle. But I knew it wasn't over. Not yet. By mid-morning, I was sitting in the FBI field office, the same room where they took my initial statement. Agent Torres slid a manila folder across the table. Thought you'd want to see this. Inside were court documents from Nebraska. Melina Cross, real name, had a sealed conviction for embezzlement from a dental clinic in 2017. Same playbook, fake identity, fake invoices, 5-figure theft. The name change came after. She's been doing this longer than you've known her, Torres said. I didn't respond at first, just stared at the words like they were written in fire. She wasn't just an affair, I finally muttered. She's a professional. She's a predator, Torres corrected. And he was right. That afternoon, I sat across from Agent Brogan for my final recorded interview. They were wrapping up indictments, and the web had grown. 3 other military families, Brogan told me. Same scheme. Deploy the spouse, steal everything, vanish. They asked if I would testify. Gladly, I said. The next morning in court, Seth met me outside. He handed me a file. My file. The one we'd built piece by piece. I didn't even open it. I didn't need to. Inside the courtroom, Kurt shuffled in, still wearing county orange. No smirk, no swagger. Just sagging shoulders and a face that finally realized the storm had arrived. His accounts? Frozen. His pension? Locked in litigation? The house? Under federal seizure? He glanced at me once. I didn't flinch. I didn't smile. I didn't say a word. The gavel dropped. I stood and walked out, letting the weight slide off my spine like armor unstrapped after battle. Not happy, not healed, but whole. I left the courthouse and never looked back. 6 months later, I live where the road turns to gravel and the air smells like pine needles and wet earth. 10 acres, 1 cabin, and no gate. Just me and Maple. I built a garden with my own hands, carved rows through the soil, planted tomatoes and beets, fixed up an old rain barrel. I chop wood for heat and brew coffee over a stove that makes the whole place smell like burnt cinnamon. My furniture doesn't match. My couch creaks when I sit, but it's mine, every bit of it. At night, Maple curls up by the door. I sleep soundly, no locks, no alarms, just peace loud enough to drown out the past. One morning, I checked the mailbox at the edge of the dirt road. Among the usual junk was a letter with no return address. Inside, handwritten on lined paper, "You don't know me, but I'm a military spouse in Fort Worth. My husband and I almost lost everything until we read about your case. Because of you, we fought back. We're still in our home. Thank you." I read it twice, then pinned it to the fridge with a magnet shaped like Texas. I didn't cry. I didn't need to. I just stood there, barefoot on my cabin floor, breathing in the quiet. Melina's in prison. 5 years, no parole. Kurt? Last I heard, he's fighting for scraps in court, living in a studio apartment his name's not even on. I don't track it, I don't care. What I built wasn't revenge, it wasn't punishment, it was freedom. And I earned every inch of it. Some people rebuild to prove something. I rebuilt to feel nothing. Before we end, let me leave you with this. If there's anything I learned from this entire ordeal, it's this. You can lose everything and still have something worth fighting for. Your voice, your dignity, your truth. People may take your money, your home, your peace, but they only keep it if you let them. I used to believe strength meant silence, taking the hit and walking it off. But now I know real strength is standing up, even if your knees shake. It's gathering the facts, holding your line, and letting justice do what it was designed to do. To anyone out there rebuilding after betrayal, whether it's a spouse, a system, or something you once called home, let this be your reminder. You are not powerless, you are not invisible, and you are never too late to take your life back. Now I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever trusted someone only to discover their whole story was a lie? What would you have done if you were in my boots? If this video moved you or reminded you of someone, leave a 1 in the comments, or just tell me what city you're watching from. And if you didn't like it, I still want to hear from you. Tell me why and where in the world you are watching from. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you want more real stories that dig deep and speak truth. Your support helps these voices, and mine, keep going. Thanks for riding this journey with me. Stay sharp, stay true, and always remember, peace isn't given, it's built. Hi there, I'm Nadia. I gave my parents $5 million, everything I had from a tech exit, to rescue our family business. And what did I get in return? They changed the company name, locked me out, then sent a lawyer to tell me I wasn't even family anymore. Worse than the betrayal? They blamed me for walking away, after erasing me from everything I helped build. And now, they want my help again? The kettle clicked off just as the sun dipped behind the Denver skyline. I poured hot water over the tea bag like I'd done 100 times before. No ceremony, no care, just habit. The apartment was quiet, save for the low hum of the refrigerator and the faint tick of the wall clock. Then the voicemail started. Hey, sweetheart, we need your help again. Just something small. Call me, okay? My mother's voice, as polished and practiced as always, floated out from the speaker. I didn't pause. I didn't flinch. I just sat down at the counter, let the steam fog my glasses, and waited for the silence to swallow her words. Help. Again. I didn't even bother deleting the message. It had been almost 4 years since I wired that $5 million. Back then, everything felt like it was teetering on the edge. COVID had hit, supply chains were crumbling, and Knox Family Organics was one bad month away from total collapse. My parents sounded desperate. Not just scared for the business desperate, but scared for our future desperate. At the time, I'd just exited my second tech startup, sold my shares, and walked away with a portfolio most people only dream of. I remember the call clearly. Dad spoke first, then passed the phone to Victor, my older brother, whose tone always made it sound like he was already doing me a favor just by calling. It's not charity, Nadia. It's family, he said. Once this turns around, we'll fold you in officially. You'll lead it. I didn't even hesitate. I wired the money that night. $5 million, 24 hours, no contracts, just trust. For months I told myself I had done the right thing. I was helping the people who raised me, supporting the company that had our name etched into every label. I clung to that narrative until it cracked. The first fracture came in the form of a casual email, one I wasn't meant to see. It had been forwarded by mistake from the accountant to my old work address. I nearly skipped over it, but something in the subject line caught my eye. Q2 adjustments, CEO loan breakdown. Curious, I opened it. Then I stopped breathing. The document listed a series of large withdrawals dated shortly after my transfer. The description read, Loan to CEO for operational support. At first, I assumed CEO meant general expenses, maybe payroll, vendor payments, renovations. But the math didn't add up. None of the amounts lined up with the outstanding invoices I'd seen earlier. The dates were precise, suspiciously aligned with payments I had personally tracked. I cross-referenced the document with the expense records from the bank I'd used to send the wire. Every line pointed to one thing. The money had been pulled and rerouted, outside the business. So, not operational expenses, not survival, just gone. And no one had said a word. I sat there blinking at the screen, heart thudding. I had to confirm it wasn't a mistake. Maybe the document was outdated. Maybe I was wrong. That naive reflex, the one trained over years of justifying their choices, kicked in again. I called Larissa. Mom, I said, trying to keep my voice level, I came across something in the expense reports. I just need to clarify. Oh, Nadia, please, don't start picking at old wounds. Her voice was flat, cold, like I'd brought up an inconvenience, not a betrayal. I'm not accusing anyone, I replied. I just want to understand where— You gave what you gave, she snapped. Let's not go backward. We've all moved on. And with that, she hung up. Victor didn't even return my message. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the living room with only the stove light on, staring into the stillness of my own silence. I thought about every family dinner where I picked up the tab, every emergency check I'd written, every call that began with just this once. I had kept that company afloat. Me. Not Victor. Not Larissa. Not the legacy of Knox Family Organics, just me and my wire transfer. It wasn't mismanagement. It was strategy, They took what they needed and erased the trail, like I'd never existed. And what made it worse wasn't the money, it was the clarity, the realization that love in my family was never unconditional. It came with ledgers, expectations, unspoken rules that said, give everything, ask for nothing, and maybe, just maybe, you'll be allowed to stay. I pulled out my notebook, the one I'd used for strategy sessions back in my startup days. I flipped past pages of notes and diagrams until I found a clean sheet. Then, with a black ink pen, I wrote, $5 million bought their survival and cost me my place. I stared at it, not for drama, not for anger, but because it was true. And truth, once written, demands a response. I didn't know what I would do next, not yet. But I knew one thing. I was done pretending this was about misunderstanding. It wasn't confusion, it was a decision, and they had made it without me. I didn't sleep, not really. I laid there on the couch, tea long gone cold, laptop open beside me, its soft light casting a pale rectangle across the hardwood floor. Denver's night was quiet outside my window, but inside my chest, chaos. Just before dawn, I sat back up and reopened the spreadsheet. There it was, same numbers, same dates. I highlighted the transactions one by one, my transfer, then their withdrawals, the silence in between. I whispered, barely audible even to myself. I saved them, and now I'm the ghost? It wasn't just theft. It was the way they'd moved on, as if I was never part of the rescue, like I'd never been there at all. I closed the file and reached for a box I hadn't touched in months, the one buried under old tax folders. Inside, printed press clippings, board documents, and a yellowing flyer from the Knox Family Organics 2022 Revival Showcase. That was the year they'd made it back. I hadn't been invited, but I had watched, alone from my apartment, on a glitchy live stream that kept buffering. I remembered it clearly. Levon standing tall on stage, my parents on either side, the Knox logo glowing behind them. He smiled like a politician, one hand raised in gratitude, the other gripping the microphone. It wasn't luck, he said with that rehearsed grin. It was creativity, risk, belief. We didn't give up, even when others doubted us. That's how you save a legacy. I waited for it, my name, my story. Even a thank you buried in some bland corporate sentence. But nothing came. Not once, not a syllable. He took the credit. They all did, and the crowd clapped like they'd witnessed a miracle. I shut the laptop harder than I meant to. The sound cracked the silence like a whip. Of course they hadn't mentioned me. Later that same week, I got a message from Quinn, one of our old coworkers, who had quietly left during the restructuring. She sent me a string of Instagram stories, champagne toasts, a vineyard in Sonoma, fireworks bursting behind the company logo projected onto a massive white tent, a private celebration, nearly 6 figures in expenses. Quinn added one line, "Payroll was late again that month, BTW." I didn't answer. What was there to say? It wasn't even the money anymore. It was the performance, the glitz, the audacity. How do you throw a party with money you begged for, then erase the one person who made it possible? The pictures burned in my mind. Victor toasting with some VC I never met, Larissa grinning beside a cake shaped like our original store, and Levon clutching the mic like he was Moses coming down the damn mountain. I felt sick. Back at my desk, I opened my journal, flipped past the page where I wrote about the $5 million. On a new line, I scribbled, "Maybe they just didn't know how to say thank you." Then paused. No, that wasn't right. This wasn't about politeness. This was about erasure. They hadn't just forgotten me. They'd decided I didn't belong in their version of the story. I was inconvenient. A reminder of their dependence, of what they owed, and people like them, people who smile in press photos while knives still drip behind their backs. They don't like reminders. They built a stage, then cut me out of the light. Later that night, as the apartment dimmed into dusk, I pulled out an old photo album I'd brought with me when I left the family house. It smelled faintly of dust and lavender, probably from being buried in the bottom of a moving box. I flipped through pages slowly. Family barbecues, business launches, holiday events. In every photo, Levon stood front and center, his arm around our dad, a grin wide across his face. And me? I was always in the background, holding someone's plate, straightening chairs, carrying files, the quiet one, the helper, invisible. One photo stopped me cold. It was from 2011. Our first investor dinner. I had built the slide deck, scheduled the venue, even rehearsed Levon's speech with him. And in the photo, I was behind the camera. They didn't even think to include me. I stared at that page for a long time before whispering, "You were always the story. I was just the support beam." I closed the album, not gently. Then I turned on my laptop again, fingers hovering over the keys. I opened a new email. To Victor Knox. Subject, "We need to talk." I started typing, paragraph after paragraph, about the loan, the party, the photos, the silence. Then I stopped. I stared at the blinking cursor for almost a full minute, then closed the window. I wasn't ready to send it. Not yet. But they'd feel me coming. I didn't touch my laptop for the rest of the night. But I didn't sleep either. The cursor still blinked in my mind long after I closed the lid, like it was waiting for me to finish what I'd started. I tried distracting myself, washed a few dishes, folded laundry that had been sitting in a basket for 2 days, but every motion felt mechanical. By the time morning filtered through the blinds, I was already back at my desk. This time, I wasn't checking emails. I went straight for the hard drive. A year ago, before they shut me out completely, I'd backed up a few internal dashboards out of habit, part of a system I used when I was still helping with investor reports. I hadn't looked at them since. Now, I opened them one by one. "If they think I'm gone," I muttered, "they'll get sloppy." The tone in my voice surprised even me. It wasn't bitter, it was clinical, like I was examining something dead under glass. I pulled up the legal registry website and typed in Knox Family Organics LLC. No result. My stomach tightened. I tried Knox Family Holdings. Still nothing. Then I searched Tate Naturals. There it was. Same business ID number, same tax structure, same executive names, but filed under a new brand. And the filing date? Exactly 1 month after I wired the last installment, $750,000. There had been no shareholder vote, no meeting, no notification, and my equity? Still listed. But under a new term, non-voting interest. They'd renamed the entire company and scrubbed me out in the same move, and they did it legally. I sat back, cold all over. So this was the play. Let me fund the rescue, wait until I was quiet enough, then bury my name while polishing their own. I wasn't just forgotten. I was systematically removed, sanitized from their story like I'd never existed. I opened another file. Archived reports from early 2023. Sales figures, P&L breakdowns, projected growth slides. Then I opened the investor deck they'd used in Q2. It had been shared with over 30 stakeholders. I aligned the two documents side by side. Page 1, net revenue inflated by 27%. Page 3, customer churn described as organic attrition, when the internal report clearly cited delivery delays, contamination concerns. Page 5, Levon's quote, "Our revival wasn't funded, it was forged." Forged? I highlighted the line, then started a new folder on my desktop. Proof. I dropped screenshots in, one after another. My fingers didn't shake. My pulse didn't spike. This wasn't panic anymore. It was focus. They didn't just minimize my contribution, they rewrote the narrative. A few days later, I called Marcy. She'd been in logistics, working under me for 2 years before she was moved off-site and then quietly laid off. We hadn't spoken since the winter before the rebrand. "Hey, Nadia," she answered, cautious but warm. "Didn't expect to hear from you." We exchanged a few surface-level updates. Denver's weather, how quiet things felt post-pandemic. And then I asked, straight out, "Why did they cut your department?" There was a pause. Then she said, "Efficiency officially, but it happened 2 weeks after we flagged some inconsistencies in inventory logs. We were told to drop it. We didn't." "How many people?" 7 of us. "And the ones who stayed?" "They signed new NDAs, stricter ones." I didn't respond right away. Marcy sighed. It felt like they wanted silence, not solutions. I thanked her, hung up, then added another folder to proof, labeled it witnesses. I wasn't gathering evidence for court, at least not yet. This wasn't about suing them. It was about seeing clearly. I'd spent most of my life telling myself they just misunderstood me, that they weren't good with words, that maybe I was too sensitive, too ambitious, too something. But the truth? They were exact in what they erased. Precise, professional. And now, I needed to be the same. I made coffee and sat at the window while it brewed. Across the street, a man walked his golden retriever. 2 kids zipped by on scooters. Normal things, real life, the kind of life I had paused for years, waiting to be welcomed back into something that never wanted me whole. They didn't just take the company. I think they planned this from the beginning. The sun had barely broken over the rooftops of Denver when I drafted the email. It wasn't long, no accusations, no emotion, just a single line and a subject. Subject, shareholder status inquiry. Body, am I still considered a shareholder? I hit send and waited. Mid-morning turned to early afternoon. I worked on other things, clearing out old receipts, making notes in my journal, even watering the plants I usually ignored. But the silence from Victor was loud. Too loud. Around 3 o'clock, I tried to log into the company's shareholder portal. Access denied. I refreshed the page. Still denied. I entered the credentials again, double-checked them. Same result. I stared at the rejection message blinking back at me like a dare. Account not recognized. I pulled up the Knox family email client and typed in my old credentials there too. This time it didn't just block me. It redirected to a user does not exist error. Every archived message, every shared folder, every login trail, wiped clean. It was surgical. A year ago I had access to every department folder. Logistics, R&D, PR, even compliance. Today, it was as if I'd never been on the payroll, never sat through 12-hour board meetings, never saved their crumbling house of cards with my own capital. I called Larissa. It went straight to voicemail. I didn't leave a message. Instead, I opened the company's public-facing team page. My name was gone, completely scrubbed. Even in the former contributors section, I was missing. They didn't lock the door. They burned down the entrance. For a moment, I just sat there, not thinking, not feeling, just blank. Then, slowly, the fog lifted, and all that remained was anger, sharp, precise, clean. My phone buzzed that evening, an unlisted number. I hesitated before answering. A voice came through, hurried and hushed. It's Melanie. Don't say my name out loud. Melanie had been my assistant 2 years ago, thoughtful, loyal. She left around the time things started to shift behind the scenes. I shouldn't be calling you, but you need to know, she said. They're telling people you've been unstable, that you've sent threatening messages. They're using the report you filed last year as proof. I felt my jaw tighten. You mean the one outlining the misuse of capital during Q3? I asked. Yes, she said. They're twisting it, saying you lashed out emotionally, that they had to remove you for safety reasons. For whose safety? I asked bitterly. They're framing you as unpredictable, a liability. Even the new hires are told not to reach out if you contact them, like you're radioactive. I closed my eyes, listening to the betrayal stack itself into a tower of rot. They told one guy you tried to leverage your past help for control, like you were some power-hungry ghost haunting the brand. I nearly laughed at the absurdity. They were turning the truth into poison, one drop at a time. I shouldn't say more, Melanie added. I used a VPN just to call you. You did the right thing, I said. Thank you. The call ended. I stared at my reflection in the blank screen of my laptop. They hadn't just pushed me out. They'd painted me as the threat. That night, as city lights began to flicker outside, Victor finally called. The number lit up and my stomach curled, but I picked up. His voice was calm, too calm. Nadia, I sent you an email, I said. I saw it. And? You made yourself a liability. I kept the lights on when no one else could, I said, the words low and steady. And now I'm the problem? There were concerns, he replied. You were acting erratically. Our advisors agreed it was best to create distance. I laughed once, bitter and breathless. You didn't create distance, you detonated it. We had no choice. Then he hung up, just like that. I stood in the middle of my kitchen, barely hearing the kettle begin to whistle behind me. For a second, I didn't move. Then I turned off the stove, poured water into the mug, and sat down. Slowly, like my body weighed more than usual. I reopened my old message to the board, the one Victor referenced. It was professional, factual, 2 pages of charts, flagged transactions, inconsistencies in payroll dates. No threats, no emotion, just truth. And somehow, that truth made me a villain. I grabbed my pen and wrote in my journal. They silenced me not because I was wrong, but because I was right. I stared at the sentence for a long time, then circled it. They wanted war? They picked the wrong woman. I didn't sleep, I didn't pace, I didn't cry. Instead, I deleted the folder labeled Board Emails from my drive. A folder I had once curated with hope, hoping dialogue might be enough, that data and dignity would convince them to do the right thing. Then I opened a new one. I named it Reckoning. This wasn't about fairness anymore. It was about exposure, about accountability, about truth, even if it scorched the earth. By morning, a message popped into my inbox. The sender's name was unfamiliar, Ellie Owl 88. No subject, no text, just a single audio attachment with one line. You need to hear this. I hesitated, scanned the file, checked the metadata. It had been recorded 3 days ago inside the company offices. I clicked play, a crackle of background noise. Then my mother's voice, crisp and chillingly calm. If she wants to be dramatic, let her. Just make sure she's nowhere near press or staff. We need this to stay clean. Clean, like I was filth, like I was contamination control. The call ended with murmurs of agreement, polite chuckles. One voice added, "We'll keep her name off everything moving forward." I replayed it twice, then a third time slower. My mother wasn't just ignoring me, she was instructing others to erase me. The same woman who once pulled me out of swim class early so I wouldn't get tired before finals was now treating me like a stain to scrub out of their perfect picture. I saved the file, encrypted it, and labeled it mothersorders.mp3. Before I could even process the ache forming behind my ribs, another ping lit up my screen. This one wasn't anonymous. It was from Darren, a quiet engineer who had worked with me for years. Attached were screenshots from the company's internal Slack channels, messages between Levon and several senior team members. Levon: "She's off the rails." Manager A: "Do we need to be worried?" Levon: "She's not a threat, just obsessed with herself. Classic narcissist meltdown." Intern: "She sent me a weird email last year, totally unhinged." Levon: "You should have seen her during that audit. Paranoid as hell." I scrolled further, numb but strangely focused. A recent LinkedIn post praised Levon for transforming a family crisis into a generational win. Hundreds of likes. Comments flooded in. One that caught my eye. "Jealous little sister syndrome. It's always the quiet ones who implode." I stared at it, and stared, until my eyes burned. Then I shut the laptop, walked to the kitchen, and knocked over my coffee mug by accident. The liquid spread across the table, fast, chaotic, unforgiving, like everything else lately. I grabbed a towel and started blotting aggressively. I wasn't imploding. I was done being polite. I dialed Victor. He picked up on the third ring. No preamble, just my name, Nadia, like it tasted bitter coming out of his mouth. "I know about the payout to Melanie," I said. "I know about the gag order, and I know you used company funds to shut her up." He didn't deny it. "It was complicated," he said, voice tired. "We did what we had to avoid more damage." "To whom?" I asked. "The truth doesn't damage things that deserve to survive." Victor exhaled heavily. "It wasn't personal." "Then why did you make it a family business if loyalty was optional?" I shot back. "Why take my money, use my silence, then turn me into the villain?" Another pause. "Don't make this messier than it already is." "I didn't make the mess," I said. "I just stopped cleaning it up." Then I hung up. I sat for a moment, staring at the call log. My hand shook, but not from fear, from clarity. I opened a new Word document and titled it, "Statement to Investors, Draft." Every word was careful, intentional. I listed timelines, transaction trails, misappropriated budgets. I cited employee gag orders, falsified marketing claims, whistleblower retaliation. No adjectives, just facts. When I was finished, I didn't hit send. Instead, I printed the draft and folded it. I placed it beside my bed, under the lamp, where I would see it every night before sleeping. That was my new alarm clock, because I knew now there was no room for more warnings. They had shown me who they were. They didn't just lie. They paid to keep others from telling the truth, and that's where I draw the line. I had just started boiling water for tea when the ping hit my inbox. It wasn't dramatic, no red warning, no urgent subject line screaming at me, just one quiet, cold email with the subject, "Final clarification, legal notice." It was from Larissa's personal attorney. I opened it. My hands didn't shake. My heart didn't race. I was beyond those reactions now. What I read was deliberate, sterile, and absolute. Per Section 12 of the Family Business Contract, Nadia Knox is no longer recognized as a stakeholder or kin in financial matters, effective immediately. One sentence. That's all it took to cut me out. Not just from the company, but from the family ledger. It was a legal exorcism. No emotion, just terms and clauses. I let the kettle keep whistling. Later that night, I sat cross-legged on the floor of my living room, surrounded by receipts, login tokens, and old statements. I pulled out my backup drive and opened what I had labeled months ago as Shadow Archive. It didn't take long. Among the remnants of my old admin credentials, I found traces. Just enough to follow a thread. A withdrawal from the company account tagged Temporary Assistance. Date, 2 years ago. Amount, $48,000. Origin, Larissa's personal routing number. It was the same amount I had wired for inventory restructuring. I pulled up the old email exchange. "We're stuck with unsellable stock. Can you cover it for now? I'll return it before Q3. That's what she'd said. There was no inventory, no restructuring, just an overdue payment on her private line of credit. It was personal debt, dressed up in a business memo, no record of repayment, no acknowledgement, no shame. I leaned back against the couch and exhaled, the air catching in my throat. Betrayal didn't come with fire anymore. It came with stillness. Then came Victor. I dug deeper. A $200,000 line of credit opened under the company's name. I cross-referenced it with 3 flagged transactions marked as employee expense corrections, except they weren't connected to any employee I knew. A few calls later, I confirmed it through the bank's legal department. The line had been used to cover Victor's legal consultation during a personal business lawsuit and his back surgery. The funds were pulled from an account that had once been seeded by me, $5 million strong. This wasn't mismanagement, I whispered aloud. This was theft. I wasn't looking for revenge. I wasn't trying to take back what was already lost. But I wasn't about to let them keep using my name to clean their messes. I made an appointment with someone I trusted, Kira, an attorney I'd worked with during my early investor days. She greeted me at her downtown Denver office, offered coffee, and sat without judgment as I laid it all out. "I'm not here to sue," I told her. She tilted her head. "Then what do you want?" "I want a firewall. I want them legally banned from using my name, my money, or any ties to my brand or history in future dealings. If they claim I was involved, there needs to be a record showing I wasn't." Kira's eyes narrowed. "You understand what that implies?" "It implies I'm done letting them rewrite the script." She nodded. "It also implies they're going to retaliate." "They already did," I said. "This isn't a fire I started, I just stopped putting it out." That night, back in my apartment, I sat at the kitchen table and drafted the letter. To the Board of Directors. Subject: Official notification of financial breach and severance of representation. I laid out everything, chronologically, cleanly. I attached scanned screenshots of statements, timelines of unauthorized activity, even quotes from NDA-protected conversations I now knew had been weaponized. I didn't accuse. I documented. At the bottom I wrote, "If your silence continues, legal transparency begins." I didn't send it yet. I printed it, folded it twice, slid it into an envelope I'd already addressed. I'd drop it at the post office in the morning, certified. Let them scramble. Let them prepare whatever rebuttal or denial they needed. Because this time, I had the receipts. And if they wanted war, they just got it. On record, in writing, and backed by every ounce of truth they tried to bury. Morning came fast. The envelope was still sitting where I'd left it the night before, on the edge of the counter, next to the toaster. I had barely touched my coffee when my phone buzzed. A message from Elliot Green. Subject: You need to see this before it's deleted. My thumb hovered for half a second before tapping. Attached. A PDF. Clean, neatly formatted. I recognized the email headers immediately. It was internal, a full thread. At the top, from Larissa to their family lawyer. What we need is a clean legal strategy to push Nadia out. No signature needed. She's an emotional risk. No confrontation, just resolution. The timestamp? 2 days after I wired my last $500,000. My heart didn't race. It didn't have to. The rage was slow and familiar now. No longer heat, just clarity. They weren't scrambling to protect the business. They were planning a quiet coup, and I had funded it. The rest of the email laid out everything. How they'd rewrite the bylaws to exclude me from all votes, reclassify my shares as non-assertive capital, and ensure I held no legal claim to managerial input. Larissa had even ended the email with, "Let her scream, we'll say she's just not well." That line sat in my chest like lead. I stood up, poured my coffee into the sink, took a long breath. Then, as if summoned by the storm itself, my phone rang again. Victor, I should have let it go to voicemail, but I didn't. Hello? His voice came through with practiced softness. Nadia, I know things have gotten complicated, but just say it. A pause, then, your mother's not well. Supplier payments are behind. We need one more bridge, just until Q1, then we're clear. I laughed. I couldn't help it. You erased me from the books. Now you want me to write another check? It's not like that, he said, lowering his tone. Family is still family. I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. No, you don't get to use that word anymore. Not after burying me in fine print. He didn't answer. I ended the call without saying goodbye. A few hours later, I opened my blog's admin inbox, something I hadn't checked in days. There it was, a forward from a reader. Thought you'd want to see this. Attached was a screenshot from Reddit, a thread titled, "The Real Story Behind the Knox Split." The poster claimed I was fired for embezzlement, said I'd emotionally blackmailed staff and manipulated figures. Another comment from a burner account. Her brother Levon saved the business after she cracked under pressure. I scrolled down. One username stood out. It linked back to a former PR intern. Someone who had once told me, wide-eyed, that I inspired her. They were turning the narrative. This wasn't just strategy anymore. It was character assassination. I saved every screenshot, labeled the folder, Defamation Suite Prep, because I wasn't just fighting for my name, I was building a shield they'd never get past again. That night I sat in silence for a long time. No music, no TV, just the city outside, breathing heavy in autumn wind. I curled my knees to my chest and let the grief pass through me, just once. A single wave. Not because I was breaking, but because I refused to carry this with numbness anymore. Then I got up. I walked to my desk, pulled open the bottom drawer, took out the official shareholder transfer agreement, the one they never expected me to sign. The final page was blank. I took my pen. October 11th, 2024. I signed, not because they deserved closure, but because I did. They had their chance to keep me close. Now they'll have to watch from far away, permanently. The next morning, I woke to the soft hum of my coffee pot and sunlight leaking through the blinds. There was no dread, just a sense of finality. The signed agreement sat in my bag, sandwiched between two folders. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed my coat, walked to the nearest FedEx location, and handed the envelope to the clerk. Certified, signature required, I said. Recipient? She asked. I smiled faintly. Women Forward Foundation, ATN Amy Tran. She keyed it in, and I paid without a second glance. When I stepped outside, the air hit different, lighter. It was done. Later that afternoon, I opened my laptop and sent a single message to Amy. Do more with this than I ever could. I attached the formal share transfer confirmation. She was now the sole beneficiary of what used to be my stake, what used to be my legacy. The company I saved no longer had my name attached to it. Not legally, not emotionally, not even in memory. A few hours passed. Then came the retaliation. An internal email from the board somehow made its way to my inbox. Leaked, no doubt, by someone who still had a spine. Larissa had authored it. Nadia made her own choices. We didn't abandon her. She abandoned us, at the company's weakest moment. Victor took it further. I saw a message he'd sent privately to a select investor group. Knox Family Organics collapsed structurally when one key party chose exit over resolve. The narrative was flipped, neatly. I was now the one who walked away, the one who turned her back on family values. By the following morning, 3 of my old contacts had stopped replying to my messages. A journalist I'd worked with before ghosted me on a scheduled call. They weren't just rewriting the ending, they were trying to erase the whole book. I opened a draft post. Title: The Truth Behind the $5 Million Rescue. I pulled in screenshots, dated emails, bank receipts, shareholder terms. It was watertight. Then I stared at the publish button. It hovered there, blinking like it was daring me. But after a moment, I closed the tab. I didn't owe the world my pain just to validate my version of the truth. Instead, I opened a different document, one I hadn't touched in over a year. It was a letter I had started writing to myself on my 30th birthday. A letter to my younger self. That same version of me who thought success would make her safe, that loyalty guaranteed love. I wrote 2 more paragraphs, then signed it, "Love me, now," and saved it. That afternoon, I walked to a park I hadn't visited in years. It was still the same: gravel paths, fading benches, and a mural of butterflies painted near the playground. I used to come here when I was a teenager, headphones on, notebook in hand, dreaming about the kind of future I wanted to build. Now I had lived it, and lost it, and built something better. I sat on the bench and let myself exhale fully for the first time in weeks. No more checking behind me, no more waiting for an apology that would never come, just silence and peace. I pulled out one final envelope from my bag, this one addressed to the legal team at Knox Family Organics. A cease and desist, short, sharp. Cease defamation activity or legal action proceeds. I dropped it into the outgoing box at the postal kiosk near the park gate. It didn't feel like revenge. It felt like maintenance, like closing a file folder so I could clear space. That evening, Amy called. She didn't ask if I was okay. She didn't need to. "I just wanted to let you know," she said. "We've already launched a microgrant program with your transfer. 5 women-led businesses have received funding, one of them starting a food co-op, another, a mobile therapy van for underserved neighborhoods." I didn't cry. I just smiled, real, small, and solid. "You didn't just leave something behind," Amy said. "You built a way forward." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. "Thank you, Amy," I said. Truly. After the call, I didn't turn on the TV. I didn't scroll through social media. I sat in the dark with a cup of tea and thought about what it means to walk away before a place burns you from the inside out. They took my silence as surrender, but I wasn't silent. I was healing. The kettle whistled softly in the background as I checked my inbox, expecting the usual foundation updates or a note from Amy, but what caught my eye wasn't from anyone I knew. Subject: When Founders Are Forgotten, the hidden story of Knox Organics. It was an industry blog, mid-tier, independent, the kind of site execs snubbed, but insiders read religiously. I wasn't the source. But someone, somewhere, had seen enough. The article pulled no punches. It tracked the early rise of the company, the sudden silence around its real investor, and linked the timeline with shareholder data, still public if you knew where to look. The final paragraph posed a question. What happens when those who build the house are written out of the address? It spread fast. No dramatic headlines, no explosive lawsuits, just quiet accountability that moved through back channels like cold air under a door. A few days later, news slipped out that Larissa had been quietly removed as CEO after a late-night board vote. No press conference, no handoff ceremony, just a short notice in a shareholder bulletin. Executive transition, effective immediately. Victor issued a vague apology via an internal memo, something about misalignment of vision and regret for misunderstandings. I didn't bother reading it all. And Lavon? His social pages went dark. A whispered harassment suit surfaced, connected to an event 2 years ago. No one seemed surprised. They just nodded, like it all made sense now. There were no fireworks, no crowd-pleasing collapse, just erasure. the same way they'd tried to erase me. 2 weeks later, I received a letter. Handwritten, slanted script, no return address. Dear Nadia, I know we haven't spoken since the day I walked out of the logistics office. I didn't have the courage then. But when I heard you refuse to be quiet, when I saw someone stand up, even with everything to lose, I realized maybe I could speak too. You made it easier for people like me to say what's true. Thank you for not staying quiet. Melanie. I read it twice, then placed it inside a small wooden box I kept beneath my bed, labeled, Kept, Not Forgotten. That afternoon, I stood before a small crowd of women at a community center, hosted by Amy's foundation. The room was nothing flashy, folding chairs, mismatched mugs of coffee, but the energy inside? Real. I didn't read from a script. I didn't name names or mention dollar amounts. I simply said, power isn't in what they take from you, it's in what you choose never to give again. They clapped, not wildly, not like I delivered some great victory speech, but steady, respectful. Some even stood. And I didn't flinch. Later that week, I visited the new co-working space our foundation had helped fund, an open, sunlit office for women starting their first ventures. I wasn't on the board. I didn't run it. I just came to listen, mentor, and, once in a while, laugh again. One young founder, maybe 25, looked up at me after a brainstorming session. "What happened to your family?" she asked, hesitant. I paused. There was so much I could say, pages worth. But I simply replied, "They taught me how to walk away with grace." And I smiled. Not because I was over it, but because I was moving forward anyway. I didn't need a parade. I didn't want revenge. I wasn't waiting for someone to tell me I'd won. Because this wasn't about winning. It was about no longer needing to. They closed their doors on me, but I opened mine and walked through. I used to think walking away meant failure, that letting go meant weakness. But sometimes the bravest thing you can do is to stop proving your worth to people who benefit from your silence. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Your peace is worth more than their approval. Your value isn't up for negotiation, especially not with those who only remember you when they need saving. Maybe you've been the one who gave too much, stayed too long, or tried too hard to be accepted by the people who should have protected you first. If that's you, please hear me when I say, you are allowed to choose yourself. You don't owe anyone your breakdown to earn your breakthrough. So now, I want to ask you, have you ever had to walk away from someone you love to protect who you are? Or maybe you're still standing at that edge, wondering if you can take that first step. If this story touched something deep in you, drop a 1 in the comments so I know I'm not alone. Or let me know where you're watching from. I'd love to hear your story too. And hey, if this kind of storytelling speaks to you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what's next. Real stories, real emotion, real people, just like you. You deserve healing, you deserve honesty, and most of all, you deserve to be heard.